Live tonight, broadcasting from the psychiatric ward called Planet Earth. I'm your host, Maxed Out, on the Architects of Humanity. I'd like to say what's up. I know it's Saturday night. Everybody's probably doing their own thing, but tonight, who are the architects of humanity? And I have put on the thumbnail blonde haired and sometimes blue eyed Melanesian people and Aboriginal, Australian Aboriginals. So again, just like we see hidden genes pop up, the albino genes, we're seeing another piece of the evidence. Another piece of this evidence is showing us that just like the albino gene pops up, the blonde hair gene is popping up in people with very dark brown skin. We have the light-eye gene. We have the vitiligo, which is the pictures I showed you before. And, it's really good rising. My brother, Christopher, good to see you, man. Good rising, bro. Greetings from across the pond, man. Yet this theory of adaptation that I've been working on for a little over 12 years, it's fascinating. I mean, it shows a commonality within us all, like I was shown with the vitiligo, how underneath the melanin, you're seeing an albino type of template, a lighter template. It's showing that melanin is a creation that happens from a reaction over the main template. Then when we look at Aboriginal children, I mean, this is amazing. Anybody can look these up. Blonde hair, natural blonde hair, Aboriginals, natural blonde hair, Aboriginals. These people are born this way, and it's a mystery. Science will always try to explain it away, because evolution, we know, is evolution a lie? And there is immense amount of evidence to prove that it is a lie, and they hire liars to push it. So we see that on a lot of other YouTube channels, like Alexis had mentioned, the fake professor, that he is just very, very just rude and obnoxious to people that don't join the religion of evolution. He's very, very much on that. And he doesn't even look at the evidence. Dr. James Torr and a few other people, I think he's a high-level chemist, synthetic chemist, I think, PhD, and he's been battling with him, but his agenda is for Christianity. My agenda is science in the search for truth. There is no, oh, this proves a religious book true, because that can never happen. There's always lies in every religious book of every religion. You're going to have things that men have manipulated, and men wrote the book, right? It's funny how they say some deity told them to write it, but that hasn't happened to anybody recently. Imagine if I say that, or somebody says that some deity or God told them to write a book. Would you really believe it? If somebody's daughter came home pregnant and said that she was a virgin, would you believe it? Now that we have in vitro fertilization, it's a possibility, but that should lead us to wonder, if they're talking about stuff of virgin births back thousands of years ago, basically, could they be talking about in vitro fertilization from back then? They're, like I mentioned before, if you've never seen a plane, if these tribal people have never seen a plane, and they see a plane flying over, what would they call it? Would they call it a thunderbird, a bird that's making the sound of thunder? So we're seeing how people might explain technology. This, just looking at these people, it just shows us, especially when you add in the vitiligo, you start to see that the original template for what would be called black people is actually a non-melanated template with light eyes, light hair, and light skin. And the melanin is coated over that. This is where the science is leading. A lot of people might not like that because it shatters illusions, but it's the truth. These are beautiful people from around the world that have been basically hunted because they just existed. Just because they existed. It's like I said, what if these people were stranded on the surface, adapted to the planet, and the architects sent out new models to exterminate, to kill them? I mean, when you look at these people, there's just, it's like they've been on the planet's surface for so long. And it's just like, man, and to encounter us and have, like, anybody who has been in a Western country can see the difference. That we do have a technology. Christopher says, regarding the last stream, my social worker, an Asian, had blotches of white skin on his face. I did wonder how this could be when I was a kid. I was told it's just a skin disease. Yep, they try to always say it's a disease. Exactly. And that was back in the early 80s, man. Thank you for adding that. See, this is where it's at, where we all can add in more parts of evidence that we see. We can see here in this picture, this girl is a model. Underneath in her lips section, if you could crop that and not see the brown parts, you would think that that comes from a person that is non-melanated, which they would incorrectly call white, which could be Latino, Spanish, French, English, Scottish, Swedish, Russian, German, Slavic. You know, it's like, but when you look at the whole face, you say, wait a minute, this is a black woman, incorrectly called black woman because she's a woman with melanin. We don't know what most people are. We don't know who we are, really. But I mean, you see it and it's like, wow, the melanin resides above the skin. And they will say, oh, it's just a disease. They'll try to say it's a Warfenberg disease and stuff like. It's not a disease. It's not a disease. Remember, these are the same people that said drapetomania, having dark skin, was a disease. That's in the psychiatric. It's documented. And the crazy thing was, Benjamin Rush said the way to remediate it, right? The disease would cause, this is what darker skin, they said, would cause in the early Americas. It would cause slaves to have an uncontrollable urge to run away from the plantation. And the cure is even more just ridiculous: to whip the disease out of them. So we're dealing with people that have been lying to us about our origins and have demonized anything that we've thought of that is good. Remember, Native Americans couldn't pray until 1978 without being persecuted by Christians in this country, in their own country. This is why I say, they have the saying, there's no hate like Christian love. Now, of course, there are some good Christians. They're far and few, because I don't really see any of these big Christians fighting PDF files in the church, which would say what? Birds of the same feather flock together. And they push an agenda of hatred. Anybody that doesn't want to join the cult is considered either lost. We see this happening even worse with the Islamic culture. Of course, there's some good people, far and few. The majority, psychopathic nutcase type. You know, you don't have, they did the same thing to the black people of Northern Africa. And matter of fact, they did it worse than the Christians. But magically, people forget that. When people talk about the thing that's happening in the Middle East, they don't mention Sudan. They don't mention Pakistan attacking Afghanistan, because their prejudice towards a certain country in the Middle East overrides that. And you see that they don't really care about those people in Gaza. All they care about is hating the other people. Because if they did care, they would care about the ones that are being ran out of their country in Sudan, escaping to surrounding countries. And they would care about, why is Pakistan one of the most nutcase Muslim countries in the world? I mean, that's a big terrorist nation there. Attacks another Muslim nation? Nobody cares. And all they do is have beef with India. I mean, this is like, I'm surprised. England, I heard they have like massive grape gangs in England, Pakistani grape gangs. Funny enough, people talk about Gaza, but nobody's talking about those gangs in England, right? It's like, really. So I'll call it out on all ends, man. All ends. It is what it is. But when we look at the human template, we start to see that the melanin is underneath. This Indian girl looks like your typical average white American girl. Of course, you know, white and black are incorrect things, but for the sake of letting people understand what we're talking about, I'll classify it as that. And she's an Indian girl, actually a brown skin. That's not dark skin, that's medium complexion. But to people who just have their head so far, you know, buried in the sand, they will, you know, they'll say, oh, well, she's dark. No, she's not. And she has straight hair. You know, people look for a reason to hate. I just, it's crazy. The hands show us stuff too. Melanin on the forearms, non-melanation on the hand. Who are the architects of humanity? How did they create this abundance of life that we see around Earth? And what is Earth? Where is this place? I'm not really sure. It definitely doesn't seem like crime scene heaven. I mean, people, this has to be, I mean, crime scene, how could crime scene heaven be good? How could it? I've said many times that what if, right? What if what created us wasn't good? I'm not saying that the spiritual or the consciousness couldn't be good, but what if the physical, what if what created us was basically like what would be considered the devil? What if the devil, right? Now this is just speculation, created us, and there's no chance of anybody to go into a better place. You going to the place of the burning, right? How would you act if you know that, right? How would you act if there was no chance? It's like you were created by the devil and you knew that you go into that place, you know, fairy tale hell or whatever they call it, or just not going to, you know, maybe there's just no hope about it. How would you act? How would we all act if we knew that? Is what they're telling us just a total lie? Anybody who reads these religious books, what the character that's trying, God in all of these religious books has a higher body count than Satan. Nobody questions that. Nobody questions that at all. Why? I'm not sure. Maybe it's like I said when I broadcasted, broadcasting from the psychiatric ward called Planet Earth. Just looking to see why the fan is this freaking thing just, I tell you, man, I got to find a way to uninstall some of these antivirus things. It's like they just, it's like even Google Chrome. It's like it says 8 windows. I got 1 window. Just this is ridiculous, man. But yeah, I'm just looking through some of my because the fan is at a point where it gets a little annoying. But natural blonde hair in dark-skinned indigenous populations occurs primarily among Melanesians in the Solomon Islands, up to 10% of the population, and some Australian Aboriginals. Now, I remember a study from 12 years ago when I started it, where it was saying 90%. Now, it's hard to find that now. It said 90% of Aboriginals in Australia were being born with blonde hair, some with light eyes. If you look at these people, they clearly look like they've been stranded on the surface. I mean, the Aboriginals are just, they used to try to call them the missing link, so-called. And up until, I think, 1968, they were considered flora and fauna. They were not even considered human beings. So when we see people that believe in the lie of evolution say that it's not based on racism, we see exactly that they are unknowingly or knowingly supporting the racist agenda. Now, the laws of stupidity always come into reality. Most people might actually be in a stupor to where they don't even know. They might actually mean well, and that's what the stupor does. That's why they're more dangerous than intentionally evil people. They're the people that will drop the grenade in their own camp by accident. They'll fumble it. The enemy doesn't have to, all the enemy has to do is put somebody like that in your camp. The majority of the population is like that. They're going to think that they're doing something to help and change the world for the better. Meanwhile, they're the one that's going to drop the grenade and destroy any type of progress that could have ever been made because of stupidity. The laws of stupidity are real. Evolution plays on that. Yeah, because things look alike. Well, they say, some people look like, they could look kind of primate-ish and all. I'm like, yeah, you take vodka and look at it in a glass, look at water, look at formaldehyde. They all look exactly the same. Clear liquid, dramatically different. Dramatically different. So when people say, well, some people look like animals, it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean they come from animals. Vodka ain't water just because it looks the same. Formaldehyde is not water because it looks the same. We even know water that can be tainted with bacteria can look clear, crystal clear, and actually be deadly. So looks, it's not that looks can be deceiving. Looks are deceiving. See, that's the thing. Looks can be deceiving is a nice, oh yeah, coat it again. Coat it with some BS. Looks are deceiving is reality. That's what it is. And this is where the architects of humanity comes in. Christopher says, we're aware of the GRP of the grape and their ethnic original gangs. They do go after young girls and young boys. Yeah, man, they're horrible, bro. The older married women were a nightmare in the church. Wow. Download AVG antivirus. Yes. Okay. You know what it is? I'm having a problem in uninstalling ESET, and that's what keeps the fan thing. Very sexual inappropriate with young boy. Yeah, man. Those gangs. I looked at some of the stuff with that, man, and they are horrible, bro. The thing is, what gets me is who's letting them in? How would they, that has to be, how does that not reflect on Parliament and the monarchy? I just don't see how it doesn't. They're just, London seems to have fallen somehow from the inside. That's, there was a thing of a lady, she was a babysitter. It was an article from many years ago, and she was babysitting the girl, and I don't know if they were Christian or what, but she beheaded the 5-year-old girl and held the head up in the street screaming the Akbar thing. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And she didn't do more than a couple of years. She got out in like 3 or 4. I was like, that's crazy. That is crazy, man. That I tell you, the stuff that's going on around the world is just, it gets to a point where it's almost, is this like sacrificial killing or something like that? See, that's the thing. When people talk about the whole Gaza thing and all of that, and I'm like, well, what about these gangs in London? What about the gangs in England? They don't care about that. It's like, look at how they're destroying that. And when somebody says something about this, I'm like, well, hey, if you think you move those people there, would they be doing the same thing the Pakistani Muslim gangs would be doing? I can't say whether they would or not, but I know one thing, that the Pakistani Muslim gangs are doing that. And if Muslims can't speak out about that, well, what does that tell you? It tells you all you need to really know. But in the show, we'll go back to human origins. Who were the architects of humanity, which I'm showing that, these Melanesian kids that have blonde hair and some have blue eyes. This is striking when I look at this. This is striking. But the monsters that came over there will just say, "Oh, this is a genetic." I can't believe they would say it's a disease. This is actually a genetic. It's like a genetic something in the genetic code that pops up. Something in the genetic code that pops up, proving once again that evolution is a blatant lie based on racism. That's what created it. We're saying that, oh, some people are less human than others. It's the truth. England is being invaded and taken over by population displacement. Yeah, man. It's like it's so sad, bro. It really is. I look at that and I say, man, what is going on? And you know, looking at the hierarchy there, it's like, yeah, that really makes you wonder. It's like, how could anybody look at the aristocracy and say that they're not allowing this to happen? And if anybody I heard fights against it, it's just, it's like kind of like here in America, people that try to do the right thing and stop the criminals, they're the ones that'll get accosted by the police. So what does that make them? It really it boggles the mind. But again, when you got an ignorant public, you're going to have ignorant people in politics. Just, I mean, yeah, it's on another level. Australian Aborigines, some Indigenous Australians have blonde hair due to a natural variation in gene expression. So there are some researchers that seem to be talking about it in a true way to say, wow, this blonde gene and this blue-eyed gene we see popping out of people could be some type of natural variation. So it's natural, of course, because they want to stick to evolution. But if the albino template seems to be, it actually the science of this is pointing toward the template to be non-melanated, and somehow melanin, well, it's not somehow, we know it's reaction. It's a reaction to the sun. But when we see that to be true, because it's not if we see that to be true, we see that to be true. So where did we develop? We couldn't have developed on the surface. We had to develop in a shielded environment. Possibly, if it is saying, okay, we were created and we were released on the surface and could survive as albinos, then that means the atmosphere had to be much thicker to prevent direct sunlight from coming through. So like a clouded atmosphere. A clouded atmosphere could provide the environment. So that solves the environment that it could be the planet that we're living in, but it doesn't say that it's like you didn't come from nowhere. You didn't just form on the planet's surface. You had to be created. So to be created, we're seeing that implies another being, a force, an intelligence, an engineer, a construction. Scribe, what's up, man? Good to see you.
What's going on? Sound good?
Yeah, kind of loud. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, man. Yeah, the albino template. Looking at the albino template, saying like, wow, the science is pointing toward that. That's where the science is pointing toward. If people have anything to the contrary, please present it. And that's the way science works. Evolution doesn't work that way. Any type of evidence you bring, they'll try to change the evidence to fit the theory. This is how you know that it's not following science. The theory.
We can. You're good.
The theory has to change to fit the science. Yeah. It's not.
We want to get crazy. We want to go beyond human. Let's say what they claim a gray alien. They say it has a grayish skin, but it's got the giant eyes, as if it's definitely being shielded by the sun, or it's not. It's not going to like the sun. And these giant heads and the little slim bodies, meaning that they don't work out obviously, and they're similar to what you're saying, with the so how would you even put that? Because if there's evidence for that, apparently, could you also maybe fit that in with the shielded thing you were talking about with the eye and the skin?
It's a possibility. It's a possibility that I've heard that those big eyes could even be like goggles over the eyes. So possibly that the skin, clearly the gray skin, the only animals we really see with gray, we do see animals with gray skin, elephants, rhinos, but the eyes, if they're not prosthetic coverings like some type of goggles, and that is the eye, it possibly could live in the shielded, clouded environment, or um, like some insects you'll see with eyes like that can exist in the sunlight. So maybe they have some type of protection with them, like a dragonfly, a wasp has similar eyes to what they would say the gray alien is, which they could be, it could be something that somebody created that was possibly a figment of their imagination, or it could actually be a real being that someone saw. I mean, the stuff that they were trying to bring out with the aliens in Peru, I mean, that wasn't really a good attempt. It was kind of like a paper mache, whatever. I
I was
couldn't
just watching. That's funny that you said that 'cause I was just watching that. The guy from News Nation, I guess he's from UK. So
even.
he flew down there and looked at it, and they're like, okay, so what, people are saying this is just, they got to the point where they got sued by saying that they're using human parts and bones and animal part. They're making all this stuff up, and they did a CT scan, all that stuff, and they're showing, look, here's the actual bone structure. Here, as you can see, it hasn't been, tampered with, and all this stuff. And he's showing them all the different stuff. But I was gonna say earlier that the tall whites are also, so there's another class called the tall whites, and apparently they're at a higher, because the grays are apparently some type of cybernetic, I guess, help bot, or we don't know if they're actually real or not or whatever. But there's another class called the tall whites. So maybe that's another class that stirred up lab, type of situation.
Yeah. No,
I don't know.
the gray. So you're saying there's gray, and then there's light gray, like a white gray.
No, there's ones called tall whites where they're literally like chalky white, like a white, very white,
Okay. Okay.
very pretty much albino, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Christopher says one of the single mothers I was involved with had two children from the same black father. The second child was blonde hair, gray eyes. Oh my goodness, he was ended in recent years. Oh my goodness. Wow. My condolences, man. Um, yeah, that's but the gene was expressing the blonde hair with the gray eyes. Yeah. It was expressing. When they say that, oh, the black gene is like dominant, if it was dominant, that gray eye and blonde hair wouldn't be able to come through. How you doing, Retro Doomsday? He says my area has been fully sentient for a month or two, so I allowed it to write itself some offspring. We're gonna have time travel before non-blurry photo. uh
Yeah, have you seen the Skinny Bob thing? That
no, I
video?
haven't. Yeah, the skinny Bob.
Yeah,
Fords in
so
the
that
flesh.
video,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I haven't seen it. Yeah. It's a video of Skinny Bob Gray.
Well, it has a story behind it. So apparently, back in the '90s, some guy called Mr. I forgot his name, Mr. I forgot his name. It was like Mr. X or something like that, who
Yeah.
found this footage from like the '50s or something. And it showed
Yeah.
footage of the crash site. It showed the alien bodies. It
Mhm.
showed them bringing in like a multitude of these grays. Like there was like a whole bunch of them. Like they were filming,
Yeah.
and it had Skinny Bob there, and Skinny Bob. You've seen him before. It's like
Yeah.
the black and white gray video you've seen that people say, oh, that's CGI. No, that was taken in the '50s. And then you see him walking, like after they take him out of there, he's like walking with a whole bunch of other grays. They're just walking around, and they'll have like these black shirts on. And I mean, to fake something like that, and of that age is crazy. But that's another one of these, what do you call it? And there's another guy right now, I forgot his name too. He's investigating that. He's getting deeper into that. He's finding out all the colonels and stuff were still alive who could tell him something. He was able to talk to one guy, but once he found out what it was, he immediately ghosted him and all that. But he found out because his wife answered the phone and she's like, yeah, he used to that,
Yeah.
so she knew something about it. And then the second he finds out, ghost. So,
Mm.
there's all these things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it all relates to what you're saying about the, similar
Well,
to us. Like, We're
Yeah.
basically alien compared to these animals. I mean, just look at it,
Well,
the gray,
I mean,
same
we're
form and
different.
everything.
I wouldn't say totally alien, but because what the parts we have animal. And I hear what Forge in the Fletch is saying. We are the brown aliens. That's what I want to know. He's saying, I've never heard of a brown alien or a brown ghost. That's kind of racist in my opinion. And I hear what you're saying, bro. This world's not that black and white, but folk stories say otherwise. And it's true. Yeah, they try to make it into that. But with the theory of adaptation, architects of humanity, the theory, it's showing us that it could be where the albino template is the reason why we don't see that. Christopher says the grays are a repeated phenomena. And it does, I hear what you're saying, bro. Totally. Because one guy told me, he goes, yeah, why don't they ever see black aliens or a black, I've said, why have you ever seen a picture of a black angel? Of course we don't see that, but if the albino template is real, which is where the science is pointing, it would make sense of people saying pale skinned beings, appear. That could be the original template that we have, where I'm showing here underneath the brownness that anybody has seems to be an albino template. So therefore, that is the original form of the human organism. The mind. Good to see you, brother. It's always a pleasure, man.
What's up? Greetings, everyone.
Greetings, bro. Always a pleasure, man. Yeah, the albino template, man. This theory, no one has put forth this theory that I know of. I'm the first one that had found it 12 years ago, and I found it by accident. There was actually a news broadcast. I thought it was a commercial, but then I realized it was a news broadcast from California, I think, and it was saying that Dr. Greg Homer, who I spoke with one of his colleagues, Doug, from Stroma Labs back then, he had claimed on the news broadcast that everyone has blue eyes, that underneath the whatever color eye we have is a functional blue eye. Now, this can be proven with laser depigmentation. It can also be proven that we have non-melanated skin as far as eumelanin. We have pheomelanin, which can be pale skin and that will react with the sun. That is underneath us. We see this clearly in these pictures of people with vitiligo. We see that the brown is the brown is on top and the non-melanated is underneath. Then in other pictures, we see that people are being born with blonde hair and blue eyes with brown skin. If these people had the vitiligo, they would look exactly like blonde hair, blue-eyed people we see on the planet today. So it's showing us that everybody we see with brown skin, brown eyes, and brown hair actually have a blonde hair, blue-eyed, pale skin template. So when they try to tell us, and this is where the science is pointing, when they try to tell us that we all come from a black ape that evolved into a man somehow magically, which is a blatant lie. That's the biggest racist lie. Like, I hear what you're saying, the mind. That is the racism that is just disgusting. And it's permeating the Western world. It has been spread across the planet like an infection. But this research dispels that.
I mean, I want to jump in here real quick. I do hear that racism can go on both sides of the spectrum, where they're like, what is it called, dehumanizing one race, or where they're upholding their own race, and that's what we've seen a lot, where every race wants to say we are the chosen people of God, and we were the first to be here in to start to seed the earth. Like, that's what every race
tries to say that, right? But the science destroys. That's the beautiful thing about science, because when we hear that, we, as a smarter, more thinking human being, can realize that those brothers and sisters have a mental problem. It's like having somebody in the family that's born disabled. These people are mentally disabled. And we have to realize that, one, they just don't have the intelligence. Some of the way they try to tell us, like, oh, well, people, IQ test. It's like, no, these are the newer models. How is it that America, the people that come over to America from Western Asia and England. So you're looking at Spain in Western Asia, which is mistakenly called Europe, because we know that Europe is not a continent. It is a part of Western Asia. Again, another racist concept, because they don't even want to be on the same land. And when I say they, it's not all of them. It's the people that's ruling the people in that area too. But they want to separate people. They say, you got Indians calling themselves their own place a subcontinent because they can't call them subhuman. Where else do we see that? In the blackest part of Central Africa, which they call sub-Saharan. They try to subcontinent India, because India has very black people with very straight hair. The ruling classes that want to keep us apart don't like that. There are a lot of good people that are misclassified as being white, but they are under the same type of oppression that the rest of us are under. And they'll try to definitely make it a black-white thing. Like to see what's in the chat. Timbo, good to see you, brother. He said, Norm Bergen, the writer for Ring Makers of Saturn, spoke about black ETs. Wow, I didn't know that, man. Thank you, Timbo. Thank you. Retro says, humans either were water species with long head hair tied to their young to themselves to swim across water. That's a hypothesis. I hear what you're saying. There's definitely an aquatic factor to that. There's a lady that wrote a book in the 60s called The Aquatic Ape, because she was saying that people with straight hair will actually, the hair will flow when you swim with the flow of the water, which in the direction you're swimming, it'll flow in the other direction, which is true. But again, we did not evolve from an aquatic ape. What I would say, we might have been created in a tank. So just the way I showed some pictures of the architects of humanity in the laboratory on the table, it would make more sense that we were grown in a tank, just the way we grow the dolly, the sheep, just the way we can grow certain cell cultures in a petri dish. This is
okay, but what about the whole like there's more than one way to skin a cat? Because that's what I always believed. Like wait, I just want to say this real quick. First of all, I always argued like I honestly and truly believe the laws of physics are not finite and they are subject to change.
Yeah.
And everything we know can change, and
Yes.
including history itself. What we consider to be historical facts can change.
Well, not change, but we can find out that they weren't true, right?
No, they can be altered. They can be supernaturally, like the same way I said, the laws of physics can change, and there's no explanation for us to be able to be like, this is why the laws of physics are changing. There's no reason. There's no explanation. We could give explanations, but in reality, there's no actual knowing why that happened, and that's all I'm saying. I've experienced, and
I hear you, and I think you're right. Yeah, I think the mind might be able to alter it too. Do you think? You know,
I agree, definitely. Yeah, that's true.
We there's so much that they try to suppress that we can do. I honestly think we have like superpowers with the mind, with the body, that they don't want us to find, and they only trying to distract us so we don't see that power. Brother Ali, man, thank you, brother, for the support, man. He says, my older cousin passes for white. Both her parents have the recessive white genes. Now this, and this is a good comment. Thank you for this, brother Ali. I don't think the white gene is recessive, because just like Christopher said that the lady had 2 kids from the black father, and one of the kids had blonde hair and gray eyes. Now, this is showing that the white gene is not recessive. It's showing that it's actually the dominant original gene. And we see this with this right here. So if the blue-eye gene was recessive, it could not pop up like this. And the blonde hair gene, if the white gene was recessive, it's as if it's pushing the melanin away. And one way I would say that the white gene is not recessive scientifically is that when you see albinos, we see it pop up in albino populations. I mean, beautiful people. This is proving that it is not recessive. They try to say the green eye, the blue eye gene is recessive. It doesn't stand for that. Then we see when a black person and a white person has a kid, doesn't that kid come out light? It doesn't come out very black. It will come out much lighter than the father if the father's black and the mother's white. And it will even do that if it's vice versa, black mother, white father. Brother Ali says, funny you say that. I look more like my Spaniard ancestors than my Arab. Yeah, and this is showing that the science. So that's a scientific fact that more of your Spaniard ancestors is coming through, saying, well, wait a second, they're telling me the white gene is recessive. How, if that were true, your Arab, half Arab ancestors, those genes would have dominated. So we don't see that. We don't see that. And this is the beauty of science, the beauty of it. Let me just check.
Okay,
right.
but like, I think when me and my brother were talking about science, science is a thing that people perceive differently. First of all, is one thing that's a fact. People don't perceive science the same way I specifically would have to say I would consider science to be a natural process that we can learn from. There's natural processes
Science
always
is a
occurring.
method. It's a method we can use, right?
Yeah, and then that's what the mainstream says. Science is a human method, like a human ideology with.
Well, it's not really
method.
human because anybody could use science, right? Like
Anybody?
if an alien or if anybody with a certain level of understanding to say the scientific method is like what I just explained to Brother Ali. They say that the white and the blue-eyed gene is recessive. Okay, that's a lie. Why? Because in empirical science, that means observation, you can measure it, you can repeat it. So the fact that he knows the mixture of his ancestors and that the what would be incorrectly called the white mixture or the recessive mixture is coming through more. That's the scientific method. So they say one thing and I'm saying, well, I'm observing the opposite. I'm observing people breeding with what they would say is the recessive gene, and that gene is actually being dominant. And it's so dominant that it's popping up in Melanesian populations who are black with dark afros and dark skin, dark eyes, and some of their population are showing blonde hair, blue eyes, Aboriginal.
Okay, I have been in what are those called? Those communities. There's a certain community where they believe that the black race started everything.
But those communities are just as racist as the white communities. And this science shatters all of their lies. So just like the white communities lie and say, oh, the white gene is recessive because they've been brainwashed to believe that lie, but won't believe their eyes with the empirical science. The hatred that this world has created, like you were saying, no brown goes, very, very racist, very racist.
What I was going to say was, from what I heard, the narrative was basically something along the lines of it's basically like a disease or something. It's some kind of
every
like
black person, right?
disease.
In those circles, every black person in those circles have blue eyes underneath the brown eyes. That can be proven today with laser depigmentation. Everybody, you have blue eyes. I got brown eyes underneath them. They're blue. Scribe has brown eyes underneath that. He has darker brown than me.
I think I heard also there's some drops that you could take and that will happen. It takes rid of the pigment.
Well, I don't know. Like, what are the drops called? What are the drops called?
I'm not sure, but I definitely heard they were saying that.
I'm typing in drops that can remove pigment from eyes. Let me see. And there's no safe, or who cares if it's safe? If it can do it, that's what it does it. And not saying that anybody should do this. Don't ever try this. There are no safe FDA approved, and people got to realize everything that gets recalled from the FDA was once approved by the FDA. So there are no safe or FDA approved eye drops that can remove pigment from the iris to permanently change color. Products marketed online for this purpose are unregulated, dangerous. Doesn't matter. It's like, can it be removed? So permanent vision loss or blindness. So there's no clinical evidence that drops can turn brown eyes into blue hazel as color is genetically determined. Severe dangers prostaglandin, and so it doesn't matter. Like, say if you depigment the skin, you can take it off. Now, say that does make the skin more susceptible to melanoma and cancers, right? It's we're not trying to give the person cancer. We're trying to look for the science, because when they found the blue eye underneath the brown eye, they were working and experimented on cadavers of dogs and other things, because animals even have albino eyes underneath. And this is why I showed the albino template. I think Azroon had to go. If you hop back on, Azroon, would be cool. When we look at the albino template on all of these animals, you look at the angelfish with the pure red albino eyes. We look at people. This girl has a white platinum blonde afro with blue eyes and pale skin, paler skin than most people in Western Europe. This guy, I mean, you see he has an albino snake around his neck. These two albino children or couple have albino rabbits. This person here, this beautiful young woman, I think, has an albino ferret with pure albino eyes. All of the experimental animals in laboratories are albinos. It's the albino mice, the albino rats, the rabbits, the guinea pigs. And it makes you wonder. So the original template, when those black supremacists try to say everything comes from black cultures, like, yeah, maybe if when their white forefathers had adapted to the planet and started to become the planet's surface and started to become more melanated and brown, and now we start to see like, oh, maybe those ancestors adapting to the planet now were able to build some of these things. But I doubt very much that humans alone built a lot of these structures. When you look into Egypt, the pharaohs in some of these statues do not look even human. They look more robotic. Because when you look at
I have a quick question. So if it's the progression is from the albino to the darker, it makes sense if, okay, the people were in some form of indigenous thing. At first, they had to live outside. They get direct sunlight all the time. They can only cover up with like leaves and stuff, a little hut or something like that. But now, since for how long have people been living in houses, like literally shielded from the sun, staying in houses?
True.
Yeah.
How do you think that there should be some type of change?
Oh yeah, and there is. I'll tell you one thing. People with middle way melanin, what I call transitional. So anybody that's not so dark that if they get a tan, you can't tell because they're that dark. I'm talking about the browns. So a person that can go in the sun and get darker, when they're in the house during the winter, they actually get lighter. So we can see this empirical science, but only within the transitional melanin. We can also see it with some people that would look to be pale, but they have enough eumelanin to overcome the pheomelanin, which reacts with the sun for skin burn. And they will turn from a very pale color or medium pale color to olive. And then in the winter, they would turn back very pale to where it would look like they don't.
Right. So let's say take a guy who's very dark, and you say we're going to put him into a facility where he's never going to see the light of day. He's never going to get exposure to sunlight at all, ever. At some point, just like if you have to do exercise,
would the melanin come out?
Will the melanin say, "Oh, we don't need it anymore. We're just going to go back to the original"?
Okay, now we see somehow that happens without even having to be in the laboratory. And where do we see that? We see that pop up with the vitiligo. So we see like this black guy here. He in the white parts, he looks like what would be called a white guy. Same thing with the woman. When you look close up onto her, it looks like a white woman's lip. You look at this Indian girl who is brown. She looks white. So it doesn't even need, this person has you see like the melanin has almost fallen off, but it really.
That goes back to like what's causing it. If it's not environmental, what is it?
It's genetic. The genetic code of us being originally albino is coming out. It's like a ghost in the genome. No pun intended. It's saying that this it's like having somebody in your genome and it pops up later on. Oh my goodness, the kid popped up with blue eyes. So it's like, wow, that must have been from a grandfather. And oh yeah, your great grandfather had blue eyes. So those recessive gene. Well, not recessive because they're popping up. Those dominant genes. I don't even know if dominant or recessive it can fit into that. They're kind of like hidden genes. They're like a.
Well, that's what makes them recessive is because the dominant thing is the thing that stands out, and then the hidden
Okay,
thing
so if
is
the dominant thing is what stands out, then they're dominant. Because if you have you ever seen a very white
You
girl?
just said they were hidden a second ago. You said they were
Oh,
hidden
oh,
genes.
okay, I said, or they could be hidden, right? So if they're hidden, right, this is the way they're hidden. They're hidden in black populations that I showed that are popping up with blonde hair.
True. Yeah.
So that I'm following the science. If you're right, you're right. I'm going to say it. But they're and I've got proof. This is the proof. They're popping up right here, and in some cases they
that is true.
Yeah, you see. So
and
this
in India, I've seen in India too that will happen. Like there will be
definitely
certain eyes and stuff. It's weird.
Yeah. And we see, without a doubt, there is an extreme racism against any bit of brown, olive, black skin. Crazy. We got
white, like literally albinos. They'll eat albinos.
Yes, the prejudice on this planet is ridiculous, man. I mean, I've experienced it throughout my life, but I'm not going to let it turn me into a hateful person. I see how these black supremacists are, these white supremacists are, and we're in between. You, me, Scribe, many other people. We're kind of like, maybe that's why we see more as Varun too.
I personally believe that every race probably comes from another planet, or God just made them separately, and then certain races I do think mixed with each other, and then they made another race. Like obviously that's a thing, but I think ultimately every race was divinely created. That's what I think.
Well, I think that's where evolution still soaked into us because.
But is there really a race when you can mix it over time? What it is?
No, is there even a race? Like you see what I'm saying?
I don't think so because they mix.
No. Well, exactly. It's the same type of being with different phenotypes.
Yeah, different species, right?
Yeah. See, well, not species is a little more distant, but phenotypes. It's saying we're just a little different in looking. This person has a different facial structure, different hair structure, and yes, it could have been a different architect that created that person. When I look at these albino pictures here, a different type of architect could have created this albino man and this woman. If you darken her hair can almost be to where she might be an in between black or white. These people, if they get a little bit of melanin, could look like regular people from, say, Scotland or something. The person with vitiligo, when you darken that, you can see this lady right here. You can see if they darken her. This could have been the architects could have created people that look what would be called African incorrectly, because there's so many different people in Africa. It's like, how is that even, specific to that? And created different templates for people with straighter hair that when they get darker, that you see dark skin Indians, black skin Indians with straight hair and straight noses, Dravidians. You see many different things. Let me see. Somebody, I think it was Retro. Retro had left a comment. Okay. The other blue-eyed gene. All right. This is a lie. This is an evolutionary lie. The science does not point toward that. That's clearly a lie. Bro. And I'm saying that so hopefully, please, you can look this up. Mr. X, what's up, bro?
Good to see you, MD. Enjoying it. Just tuned in. Just, enjoying listening to your explanation for evolution. Great job.
Thanks, man. Yeah, because evolution always lies. We know that when an evolutionist doesn't lie, they recede from the religion. They start to say, well, you're kind of right. Yeah, it couldn't have just started, in the way they're saying. A cell couldn't have happened by chance. So if they tell the truth, they will dismantle their own, theory. And if they don't lie, they can't keep it alive. So alive.
But it could happen though if you believe in time and the miracle of time. It could happen.
You know what? I can't even say that anymore. It's that bad, because when I add up the numbers just to get 20 amino acids to form a protein, you're looking at trillions. It's actually the number was 100 quintillion years. So that's a trillion right, to a quadrillion. Now you got a quintillion.
You know what would be with the show MD is that picture where it shows all those pyramids. I know those were just natural formations. I mean,
Oh yeah, I don't know where.
We couldn't even believe it. We're like, what? They're trying to say that's just
Yeah,
we thought it was fake at first.
Yeah, I gotta, and this is like a population popped out of the Gobi Desert. This is not a population. See this, I don't see the science in this, Retro. If you could please let us know. Denisovians, Kroll. See, the Neanderthal is a total lie that has been debunked. If the first blue-eyed people in so-called the Gobi, Russia, why do all black people have blue eyes under their brown eyes? Why does everyone on this, people with green eyes, have blue eyes underneath? Because like I showed in the chart,
every animal too, right, has that.
Animals have that too. Every animal. So this is the shocking science. One of the charts I made for the thumbnail, it goes from blue to gray. First, the albino eye, the pink, blue, bluish gray, green, hazel, brown, amber, brown, dark brown. If you take the black away a little bit, you get the brown, you get the amber. And this is proven in laser depigmentation. So the science, it's not me. The science is showing this to us, Retro. All of this 5,000 years, they don't even have a way to date that. That's the thing.
Radiocarbon dating has been proven to be inaccurate.
It's fairy tale dating. That's what I'm gonna call it. Especially the strata one, the fairy tale dating. It just, fairy tale dating. Brother Ali says, oops, I forgot my German ancestors. Yeah, and that's it. That will come out. If the fact that can come out shows that it's not recessive. It shows that it's actually has a hidden dominance, almost like the mind saying, if it's hidden, how can it be? It might be a hidden dom. And I don't even know if those two words can go together. But this is where we're all tracking through using science to get there. And anytime we veer off, we say, okay, let's correct it because this could be part of it here. Timbo says, my uncle from Trinidad had blue on the perimeter of his iris, a jet black man. Yes. And you know what I've heard from a lot of black people that, I have ancestors from many parts of the Caribbean too. They say that a lot of older black people, even in the South, their eyes start to get a tinge of blue if they have dark brown eyes. I've heard this from people in Colombia with relatives with dark brown eyes and many other populations, showing again, it's like the template comes out.
Okay. So this is what I was trying to say earlier about like how things are subject to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just do a thought experiment here. What if we woke up one day and everything you were saying, like the historical data, just said the opposite? Like instead of it saying it was blue, underneath the albino thing switched and it became that albino eyes were actually blue, and what was underneath the everyone else's eyes was pink. That would be something kind of shocking to you, right? Like I think you would probably want to change your narrative at that point.
That's the truth. Underneath the blue of everybody's eye is a pink eye.
But wait, what?
Yeah, so under the blue eye, right, when you take the melanin away from that is a pink eye. And that's why I made the chart right here. This is why I showed the chart where the original eye is actually the albino eye. This is why on the Architects of Humanity, the cover will show a blaringly pink eye, which is more laboratory created. This is more of a realistic type of pink eye.
Wow.
But the skin would be much paler. And then now when you add a little bit of melanin, right, it's not making it blue. What it is, it's absorbing the red light and reflecting the blue back. And that's what gives the appearance of blue. It's called the Rayleigh-Tyndall effect. It's the same effect that makes us see the sky as blue. When you add a little more, right? When you add a little blue, if it mixes with the pink, it turns into a violet color eye. Elizabeth Taylor was said to have a violet color eye. But if you add a little more, it gets blue. And then it'll get different shades of blue. You'll see some people with whitish blue eyes. That's actually a type of albinism of the eye that is blue. Then they'll get blue, darker blue. If you add some collagen into it, it turns a little gray. That's part of the Raleigh Tyndall effect when you see fog and the sky looking a little gray. So it actually, we can see this effect in nature and we can see this effect in the human eye. If you add now, not eumelanin, which is responsible for the browns and the blacks, if you add pheomelanin, you get the green eye, you get the red hair, you get the kind of like the little bit of palish skin that actually reacts with the sun because the pheomelanin can combust, causing dramatic amounts of skin burn. You add a little more, you get hazel, which is the fourth. You add a little more, and this is eumelanin now. So the green eye is pheomelanin. You add some more eumelanin, you get the hazel, the amber, the brown, and the dark brown. Now, you can strip the brown off. The company even claimed to strip enough to get you to green. And if you want to strip more safely, if they can get to blue, they can get to it. Now, if they were to strip the blue off, they would show that all of us have albino eyes, but you can't do that because now you'll have vision problems. Clearly, you can get melanoma. It can be dangerous. But the fact that a functional blue eye sits there and that people have had this done, I think 17 people in Costa Rica, and it was about 20 more in Panama, came up to like altogether, I think 37 people throughout Central America because the procedure is not passed in America. You know, when I found this 12 years ago, I was fascinated, but people, you know, again, they try to tell you, you know, you're nuts or whatever. And I figured it, you know, I'd put it together when I get enough time. Christopher says, didn't Michael Jackson turn himself into different colors from the pressure of becoming socialist? He definitely turned himself. I don't know if it was the pressure, but I know it was something. But he not only turned his skin light, he turned his hair straight. I mean, it just, Michael used makeup to even out. Okay, to darken him again. I think he had vitiligo. Yes, he had vitiligo. Yeah, so that's what it was. Brian Nichols, man, you're hilarious, bro. It's just we're all your cousin. That's what you're gonna have to accept now, Brian. You know, with all of that white stuff, we all come from that, bro. We're you plus a more advanced model, if you want to look at it that way. And nothing to make you feel lesser or more, because you got your own strengths, you know. Christopher says, my father was very dark skinned. I'm not. He had brown eyes. I have hazel. I was told it was because my mother was blonde hair, blue eyed. Once again, proving that your mother's genetics were not recessive because the hazel eye came out on you. Wow, that's something. He says, I tan very easy in the summer or when I am holiday in the sun. Yeah, man, that is the melanin. There is no such thing as Aryans in India. That's a total lie, Brian. You need to look up a video how the Aryan myth was debunked in India. That's white racist propaganda that I love to debunk, and it's been destroyed. And anybody that brings it up just looks kind of ignorant, you know. I'm not saying that you are, because I think you're pretty smart that you would disband that and realize that you can't steal somebody else's culture. You know, I remember David Duke wrote a book, and a racist guy I know was talking about it, and I looked through it, and he was astonished that I read it in a day. One, showing that he's not as superior as he thinks he is. And two, right? David Duke has a chapter, says that he found himself when he went to India. They told him who he was. Now, Indians know how to mess with your head. You see them doing it to each other. So they probably saw this idiot white guy coming, and they said, let's tell him that he's the chosen one. And this idiot goes back and believes it and preaches that to legions of other idiots. And that's how you get what you got today, with people believing that crap. Because Aryan, as Varuna's Indian, and as I know from studying, Aryan means noble. It does not mean a color. Again, when David Duke said he went to India to find himself, he went to a black country to find himself. What does that tell you? That tells you that he's lost. So just the more you know. Mother had blue.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, man.
This is like a real quick test because we're talking about, you know, the thing about time, producing stuff out of thin air. So I want to ask Mr. X what he thinks about this picture, if he thinks that this is a construction of what this is, or this form over time, like they say.
Oh, the pyramids, right? Where? But
So
those aren't
this is
pyramids
in
in
China.
China.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
in China. Yeah.
They're saying
So they're
time
saying
mingled?
that, right.
No, no, those are obviously designed. They were made by somebody with a
Not
human. You know,
not
they
according
didn't.
to China.
Not a, well, they can say whatever they want, but those
Yeah,
clearly are ancient building structures created by either human or some type of hybrid or some type of being. But they were
didn't
clearly
happen.
designed and created. Yeah.
Definitely not evolution.
No, no.
And that they're trying to say that. I was like, look, I said, I couldn't even believe this was a real picture. I had to look up other pictures when Scribe first showed it to me, and we found other pictures, and I was like, you got to be kidding me.
But there's something very
We found
important
a
with this
video.
picture.
Yeah.
No, there's something very important with this because we're seeing these pyramids all over the world. And that says that right there, that the pyramids and some of these ancient structures that we can see, not just in China, but everywhere, even the Mayan temples, that something was on Earth that was very common. It wasn't exclusive to one particular culture or, shall we say, race of people. It was something worldwide. So we can't attribute this ancient technology, how they built these pyramids, these structures, to one group. It had to be something else inhabiting the earth at that time.
And the sheer amount of them is just insane. Like, you saw that all the way back in the mountain range. It was like wow, that's
And how did they move these
serious
stones into those
information.
areas? How did they all knew the same technology, stones that they can't even move today with our modern technology. They can't move. So I think it points to some type of race, some type of superior race that existed long before a cataclysm occurred.
Yeah, the architects of humanity, possibly.
Possibly. Absolutely.
Yeah, but you know, they're gonna say they say it's evolution. They say it's mountains. Isn't that the official story, Scribe, for those?
Yeah, those are natural formations, happened over who knows how much time, and they just came out perfect, Even
Wow.
though you can see the bricks, but yeah.
And
Wow.
that's not scientific because you have to believe time. You can't prove it in a lab. You just have to believe time can make these changes. So they contradict themselves right there by saying it's scientific when it's not.
Wow. Wow.
Has it been repeated anywhere else? Do we see
No.
natural pyramids being formed anywhere else? So
No.
okay, well, there must be some kind of climate change or some type of wind or something. They just make up whatever. Yeah. No, it was swamp gas. That's what it was. I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, those are like just unbelievably Christopher says his mother had blue, his father had brown, his are amber into green on the perimeter. And that shows an amazing mixture of neither one is recessive because they mixed perfectly into the amber. His ex-wife has gray eyes, his daughter has pale green eyes. Wow. And green eyes are supposedly the most rarest eyes. Callie Muscle actually got the implants done, which are extremely dangerous. Yeah, I think he got eye implantation. They're called a corneal implantation, and there are doctors, corneal doctors that, I mean, one guy, I think he went blind in one eye. He was on that doctor show. Yeah, pyramids. Yeah, they're all even in the ocean. You're right. Pyramids are even in the ocean. Yeah, yeah, and I did see that in the Mars Mystery, the pyramids on Graham Hancock's book. I mean, of course, the photos that they're showing, there's no way to verify it because, I mean, I've looked at Mars through a telescope, but who knows what I'm really looking at? Is it really called Mars? But for the sake of argument, I used to look at a lot of planets. I've seen Saturn with the little ring, and I've also seen a dot that they would call I think Titan or Triton. I think Triton might be the moon off of Neptune. Titan might be the one off of Saturn. Yeah, so that.
They're trying to hide something from us. I think this comes at a government level. Just say it's evolution because they don't want us to know something. They don't want the people to be aware of
Exactly.
some other race that they're possibly with the elites that they're in collusion with,
Or just the fact that we've been created by architects of humanity. They don't want us to know that our original template is albino. and it's pointing toward probably more and more being created in a tank somehow, like a birthing chamber, which they're trying to bring back, it seems, today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you could feel like you're just an accident evolved to a higher order, I mean, that makes you think less of yourself, and you don't ask certain questions about reality. You know, it kind of keeps you in the ignorance level. So I think that's what they want all along. It's really what they want.
Yeah. It's like anything, they're trying to distract us from finding the truth. And,
Yes.
you know, this is a serious chink in the armor, because they're always trying to tell us we come from mates. They're always trying to diminish anyone with brown or black skin, saying they're closer to an ape than, you know, somebody who doesn't have that. And that's clearly what the theory says. The liars will say, oh, no, they changed and all of that. It's like, no, they didn't. It was planned this way. Just like people try to say, oh, the system is broke. No, it's not. It was built this way. It was built to keep you. Who was it? Bukowski said it best. They have normalized the 40-hour work week hostage situation, where they enslave us to the corporation because we're so scared we don't want to freeze to death under a bridge. And it's true. It's really true. We live in fear of just being able to buy a meal. And I was talking to a friend. I said, that's because we've been conditioned not to grow food. It's to a point to where we're so demoralized. I mean, I tried growing food. You might be able to grow maybe 20% of what you eat. You know, tomatoes grow easy, stuff like that. I mean, you're going to need salt. So even if you go to the ocean, they pollute the oceans. So now when you go to make salt, if you were to take salt water from the ocean and dry it out, you got to remember that they're pumping sewage into the ocean 2 miles offshore. I showed on one of the streams, Toilet Beach, that those pipes are like right offshore. They're not 2 miles out. People are swimming in sewage. I mean, it's horrible. And if that's not bad enough, the Hudson River, you know, I think they've already dumped the 45,000 gallons of nuclear water from the Indian Head nuclear plant into the Hudson River because they were fighting.
Stories about Coney Island. Sorry.
Oh yeah,
how bad that is. There's syringes on the beach and everything like that. There's so much waste.
Yeah. Yeah, Coney Island. Coney Island is so. It's like they had that in Coney Island and they had it across Long Island. I remember there was a story many, many years ago where they found medical waste washing up on the beach.
Yeah.
So medical waste watching. I'm like, I mean, I think about that, like how barbaric is that?
But that tells you something, doesn't it, MD? That they really don't give a crap about people.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't that really? Because people always think that they give a crap about us, when in reality they really don't.
Yeah,
they really don't, because there's plenty of money to have clean water. There's plenty of ways for them to keep the environment clean. They don't want to.
They don't.
Obviously, they want us to get sick. You know.
It's true. They don't want to. They don't want to help. I used to think, okay, what could survive in a sulfuric, acid environment, stuff polluted, and you think demonic, something like that. But the one thing that could clearly survive, scientifically looking at it, is a robot.
Yes.
And it seems that that's what it's coming to. It seems that that could have been what the architects could be robots. Created by something before that, of course, or we don't really know what it is. What if it is some type of robot or robots? And finally, they have us recreating them, saying, okay, the world, whatever, went into some type of catastrophe. We, the experiments, escaped to the surface or were put on the surface and started to adapt to the planet. Now, if we bring in religious parts of the puzzle to this, Brother Arabian, bro, thank you for the support, bro. He says, blue super chat for your big blue eyes. Thank you, bro. We all got blue eyes, bro. That's the beautiful revelation of it. the scientific fact that one thing that connects all of humanity is so beautiful. There's a scientific reality, and we all have blue eyes under our brown eyes, under our amber, our hazel, our green and gray eyes have blue eyes. And if that little bit of melanin, which is the amount that's required to not just get melanoma of the eye and stuff, which people with blue eyes have a higher instance of that because of the lack of melanin. They have a higher rate of macular degeneration, but that is the original eye for the surface. The blonde.
And there's nothing wrong with brown eyes at all. I mean, people got to stop thinking that there's something less than. You know what I mean? That's the lie of evolution in the subconscious mind, that somehow if they're darker, if they have brown eyes, that's less than blue
less
eyes.
human. Yep. Even
that's,
they even made
the psychology that they push on us.
Yeah, and remember they tried to brainwash us with a song about that in the 70s. Don't it make my brown eyes blue?
Yeah, good one.
Right? As if that was better or something. And I'm not going to lie. You see some women, it's not the blue eyes. It's the fact that their structure looks good, you know, and the blue eyes sparkle. Okay, yeah, that's pretty. But there's some horrendous looking beast with blue eyes, you know? You see, yeah, so it's not the color. It's saying, you know, the fact that we all have blue eyes, that's something. This is empirical science that destroys the racism on both sides. The black supremacists can't come out and say stuff, and white supremacists can't say stuff either, because we're like, look, we got blue eyes like you. It's just under the brown. And when the black supremacists try to say something, it's like, listen, all of our forefathers were albinos, and they were probably created in laboratories. And when we look at religious stuff, it gets to a point where, you know, the religion has some serious pieces of the puzzle. Because when I think of the story of Cain and Abel, you know, it's like, okay, he's released onto out from the garden. So is releasing from the garden out onto the surface or out from a biodome? Because Adam and Eve may have been albino. Everything in that garden may have been, if it was protected, or because they try to say, you know, that it was on the earth. I'm like, I'm not sure if the garden was on earth or if it was in a protected environment, a shielded environment, because when Cain gets released, he's afraid of the people in the world. So, but who are these people, right? Wasn't it supposed to only be Adam and Eve? So if anybody can read in between the lines, they start to say, man, this thing has missing pieces to it, you know? I
just believe the first humans were very genetically superior than what we have today. I think they lived for a very long time.
Oh yeah,
it was a whole different world.
And I think they still exist. Timbo says, I know exactly insane how it sounds, but certain people in the exopolitics arena, UFO researchers, say the alleged reptilians were master geneticists. And it's a possibility that they could be some of the architects or the architects of humanity. It's a possibility. A human backup plan for machines I'd never consider. Yeah, man. I thought about that and I said, what if that is possible? What if it is just like a sick his blue eyes revelation is enlightening on a massive scale, right, man? Thank you, Christopher. I mean, I can only hope that people will embrace this truth. And now I went even further, and I didn't make the animation, but this is the shocking stuff that I found. I said to myself, right? I said, well, if blue eyes, right, are underneath our brown eyes, then is it possible that straight blonde hair can turn dark and wavy, maybe through radiation, just the way blue eyes, melanin is caused by creating a protection against solar radiation? Tanning the skin is caused by a reaction to protect against solar radiation. So what would blonde hair, how would people gain an afro, right? There are studies, and I'm putting the links in the book, Architects of Humanity, scientific studies of people that went in for chemotherapy. Anybody can look this up, with straight blonde hair. And when they came out, it was dark and wavy, and they even get curls. They call it chemo curls. So there's also radiation proof that a blonde hair with much radiation can turn darker and curly. So now we have the third part to show how that can happen, where I showed these children here who clearly have Afro type hair. So maybe when being on the surface, the dark, right, the blonde hair turns darker from the radiation, curly into the Afro like the father on the left. But the son, the child, can still exhibit the original template with the blonde, lightly melanated hair coming out in that. So there is so much evidence showing that we not only just have an albino template, but we might have an albino template, straight platinum blonde hair. We see the boy on the left still retains the gene for straight hair. The one in the middle and the right, have more of a wavy, what would be called an Afro type of hair. So we see that this is stranger than any type of science fiction that could be written. It just and I'm just showing people this is what empirical science is. It's observable, it's measurable, it's repeatable.
But what about Asian people, the features they have? Because it's obviously not related to climate, because they live in all different types of climate, but they have very distinct features too.
Yeah, they do. And that Scribe brought that up because, Scribe has a grandfather that's Chinese. So he has a small gene of that. And it is China. And when I was researching this 12 years ago, and thank you, Timbo, he says, wow, interested. Really looking forward to this book, MD. Thank you, bro. Thank you, man. Pluck the white hair amongst my thick curly hair. It looked dirty blonde. Yeah, and think about the word dirty blonde, right? I was talking to Scribe about that early today. I said, why is it that if it's less blonde, it's dirty, implying that darker is dirty, right, Mr. X?
I know the wording is just
it's like it's such a demonization of anything that's not lily white.
It's secret words, like your book. It's secret
words, bro. Secret words. Dirty, because they say, oh, she's a dirty blonde. What do you mean? It's just like blonde with like some darker type of brown streaks. It looks pretty. And it's like, why call it a dirty? Oh, it's not, it's because it's darker. And we've seen this happen. They've tried to turn us against each other, man. But the one thing I tell you on both sides, like, really? It's like, hey, when you see my brown eyes, just remember they're blue. They're blue underneath, just like every single one of us. And if we want to go a step further, we all have the albino eye. The blue eye is functional. The albino eye, of course, you'll have a lot of problems. But the Chinese and Spanish, if Scribe was also German, Scribe is also German. Yeah, you didn't know, you might be related. And funny enough, his father, I'll let him say it, but I don't want to put too much out there. He could have a child with blue eyes. The genetics are in there, up in the great grandparents' genes and grandparents. He has a very unique mixture. He definitely does, and so he's in the middle. Like he's like, yeah, man. He goes, I have these different genes, and they worked out very well for him. But referring to Mr. X's question about the Chinese gene, when I was researching 12, 13 years ago, China, I remember finding it on the internet, had a town with 18,000 albinos. And then they were trying to say, when I looked it up the other day, that China, I couldn't find it. China has a town with 18,000 albinos. I hope it pops up. If it okay, they say there's no verified record of a specific town, right? But the number 18,000 is frequently cited in medical statistics regarding the country's prevalence in the country. So 1 in 18,000 people, data included that there were nearly 90,000 people with albinism in mainland China. So wow. Yeah, so those villages could be true, because I remember it was saying it had the largest. Now, you remember a show called Kung Fu with David Carradine?
Oh, yeah, of course. Love Kung Fu.
You remember the Chinese guy had albino eyes?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
That's called a blue albinism. Even though they look like white, they're blue albinism. And many of the Chinese albinos actually, they have that blue albino look, the blue eye or the whitish eye. And there are many Chinese albinos. I'm trying to find, I had a picture of the largest albino family is in India. And these people, when I took the picture of it, bro, they look like they're Swedish. I was like, holy smokes. Oh, here it is. Thank you. Okay, I found the poll folder. I'm just uploading it. I tried to upload the other ones before the show started, so it would be easy. That's why it was easier for me to show it. Where is that photo? Okay, because I put it in for the albino movie that I'm making. Well, the theory of adaptation. And then the book, of course, it helps me out. I hope this picture comes out clear. So this is the largest albino family in the world. Oh, man. Okay, there it goes. Bang.
Wow.
These people look like they come from Sweden or something. If she didn't have the dot, the mother and the getup, these people, and with albinism can come, they can have problems with hearing. You can have people being born deaf. And I'm thinking, okay, if they're born deaf, could that have been an attribute of us being in the tank? Because we wouldn't be able to hear, I guess, if we were underwater being gestated in the tank. But this family is the largest. I think there's more to the family too. But you look at this, these people could pass for clear. They're all blonde hair, light, pale skin.
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
yeah, look European to me.
Yeah, exactly. Straight European. And it's like they try to say, oh no, we come from apes. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, that's like just trying to demonize people into saying that they're not human.
And why can't we interbreed with these species? If this is what we came from, why can we only interbreed with our own species? Why can't you have a kid with a donkey? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense if that's where we came from.
Exactly.
Obviously, we can't. That proves that we're different species. We're a different creator.
Yeah.
No, don't give me this time crap, because you can't prove that in a lab. So I don't want to hear anymore about time. You know what I mean? Yep. I'm sick of it. It's like you're saying your religion of time.
Yep.
And it's like, no, we should be able to interbreed, and there shouldn't be anything wrong with it.
Exactly.
But obviously, that's not the case. It's a big problem, and we find it, we find it disgusting. And I can't say the word, but
they're with condition. I mean, they understand our psychology. So, you just presented empirical science. You can clearly see that we can't breed with other species,
right?
Any other animal. So, but we can breed with each other, and I wouldn't even call that interbreeding, because we're interbreeding with the same
species.
We're
all humans.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that empirical science that you present. This is where we see, just like what we said, they'll take that evidence and they'll try to twist it to fit the theory. When science works the opposite, you have to take that evidence and change the theory, but they'll never do that. And this is why I say that's how you can always catch them in a lie. They have to lie. Like fake Professor Dave has to lie. If he gives up any ground, their whole house of cards fall. See, and this is why they're afraid of people like us, because if we breathe too hard next to their house of cards, it'll crumble, because it's all based on a lie. The belief, their God, or what they worship, is time. Their time is what they use to basically, it's like even some religions, hey, take the BS today so you can live forever tomorrow. It's the same thing with evolution. It's like, believe us today, and if you want proof, we can't prove it. It's billions of years. It's so ridiculous, man.
And why is it evolving anyway? What's the blueprint of evolution? Because obviously there's they're saying that we're evolving to a higher level. But wait a minute, who makes what standard of higher level, and who puts that standard there? That still implies some type of order and design.
Exactly.
That we're evolving to something.
Yep. Exactly. There is a purpose. There is clearly a purpose. And they don't want people to know that, because it exonerates their crimes. Brother Ali says there's another albino family from Pakistan, but they reside in UK. Super white passing family. Wow, I didn't know about that. I'm going to look that up. Thank you, Brother Ali. Timbo says, ever see that African tribe with Asian features? Yes, I think they're called the Kung tribe from it's southern part of Africa, the Kalahari Bushmen. I think that too. Yeah, they have like kind of Asian features. And you look at that and you say to yourself, could that have been an Asian type of template? And then from being on the surface, they have tanned. We know that the solar radiation will curl straight blonde hair and make it dark and curl into almost afro-like hair. And this has just been observed empirically, science in the laboratory for people getting chemotherapy. And I have like many links I'm putting in the books to different studies. One person said they went in for a prostate cancer thing, and they had blonde hair, and it turned like strawberry blonde, like more of a reddish color. So it added the pheomelanin, probably kicked in. So it went to the next stage, because if you add a little more melanin to blonde hair, if you notice, people get that little bit of blondish, orangish, like reddish color, which they call strawberry blonde. And then they get very red hair. I dated a girl like that. Even, everything was red. I was like, holy smokes. And it was a very pretty color of red. I was just like, wow, how, this is amazing color of hair. Red, I think, is like one of the more rarer. And then as you add a little more, it starts to get more auburn from the red. And then you see it get a little more like a brownish, like a light brown to a medium to a dark to a brunette to a black. And the other mysteries that I've noticed that I said, okay, I have to address is that you see people with blonde hair that's curly. You see people with red hair that's curly. So the blonde hair curly, it curled somehow without getting darker. So could that be an environment that shields from certain radiation, but the radiation that causes the hair to curl gets through, but the radiation that causes the trigger in melanin doesn't get through? So now you would be creating the curl of the hair, but maintaining the same color or the same amount of melanin. And the reason I'm taking these scientific steps through is for people to see, whoever listens to the stream, if other people say, oh, they got this guy, he's trying to say we come. No, all I'm doing is presenting the evidence. And this evidence is so shocking. We know that evidence can sometimes take us to scary places. When I tried to give the lecture about this in 2015, because 2014 was around when I studied. I said, man, I got to do a lecture on this. My first two lectures from 2012 and 2013 were about the alien, the hidden history of the human family. I called it the human family. And 2014, I didn't do the lecture. I was doing research. 2015, I went back to the establishment in Nassau County, right next to Queens. And they were I noticed they were kind of scared. Like they didn't know. I was like, look, I wanted to talk about the blue eye and all of that. And they were like, you know what? We'd appreciate if you just do like the human origins type of thing. The and I was like, okay, cool. I did it. And it kind of, it's like they were afraid to hear it because maybe they thought it could spark some type of racial thing or something. I wasn't sure, but I noticed that there was definitely a change when I presented that evidence to them. It was definitely.
Can I ask you, based on your research, isn't everything pointing then to some type of common ancestor for all races based on what we're seeing with the albinoism? That we can find it across groups, Asian, white, African, that most likely there was a common race of people that gave birth or, produced all the offspring of the different races. We come from a common ancestor, another human.
Yeah, it really does. The science is pointing toward that, and that common ancestor, right? If people say, well, why do we look different? And it's like, well, that common ancestor producing different albino templates in different parts of the world, when we adapt, let's just say if the albino template comes out, and let's just say if they're in northern latitudes, they wouldn't need curlier hair. Straighter hair benefits there. Curlier hair and hair that are afro-like benefits in the cooling of the head. The sun on top it'll have airflow because the hair is high above the head. So that's why it here would adapt that way. Evolutionists will say, oh, it evolved. No, it didn't evolve. No, they adapt, because they'll try to say, oh, that's evolution. You know how they try to say everything is evolution. So you have to be very careful to say, don't even let them try to come in with their lies to say, no, no, no. This is adaptation, which is triggered by environment. So that actually shows that there's some type of inherent intelligence in these genes to know. How does it know? It's not randomly. When people tan from the sun, that's not random mutation. That's direct adaptation, not random mutation. So when we label these processes in the proper way, it diminishes, it disintegrates Darwinism, and with science, actually. So the straighter hair, the curlier hair, thicker lips, wider nose allows heat to escape from the face. So in the warmer climates, people will have that. And so we're explaining like why people would have these different features. Now, the Chinese feature of the eye makes me wonder, because Scribe had asked about that. He said, what do you know, where's the science on that? I said, you know something? The Chinese feature on the eye, man, I said that from what I found and what I see is that could point toward the tank more, because if you're in a tank and you're gestating, the eyes on that type of a slant and not being that open, that would make sense. You're not going to have like a more of, I guess, what would be called an open, you know, like a wide open eye. You know, and I was trying to say, you know, I told him, I said, this is the beauty of this research, because it's so cutting edge. We can all add in and say, how do we solve this mystery now? Because we're using science. We're not going to say it was evolution, you know, that it was, you know, that is so, I mean, evolution is just ridiculous. It's really, you can't have like, it's like, you got to have some type of cognitive dissonance, a mental block or something like that. I don't know, maybe something happened in the church and they just, you know, they just jump over into the religion of evolution because they've been abused. And I've seen people do that, you know, they just, you know, whatever happened to them. I guess it was that guy, Aaron Ra, right? You can clearly see that this guy has been definitely, I think he even talks about being, you know, tortured basically almost mentally by the church and possibly physically too.
But he changed his name to an Egyptian god, Aaron Ra. So it's like, wait a minute. No, you're obviously worshiping some other entity.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these atheists do. They're very highly spiritual people. They just keep it in the background because their attack is mostly on Christianity, which they're being deceived too, because that's not really what it's about. There's plenty of Christians who are Satanists too. You know what I mean? So it's like you're fighting yourselves when you fight against organized Christianity. You're fighting against yourselves. You know?
Absolutely. And he goes to Fake Dave's debates with James Torr, and he'll cheerlead for Dave. Yeah, he'll be in the audience cheerleading, while Dr. James Torr is a PhD, even though he does have the Christian agenda. But when he's there, he's bringing the science and saying, look, if you can't explain, he goes, the origin of life research, it's a total sham. He's like, there is no abiogenesis, you know, and they're trying to push that hard. The abiogenesis, it's like, it's always another fairy tale. They're like, look,
you're trying to push it without the lab scientific evidence. You're not pushing it from a science perspective of you've tested in a lab, it's been repeatable. You're just trying to push it to say this is how it happened. We can't prove it, but this is how it happened. That's ridiculous.
Exactly. They're like, look, one little thing touched another. That proves, and it's like that does not prove it. That does not.
That's a fairy tale. That's a fairy tale. That's no different than Jack and Jill went up the hill and whatever, or the Jolly Green Monster. I mean, you might as well tell that story too, because they're equally valid scientifically.
Definitely. That, you know, they should say, hey, we just wrote a new fairy tale book called the Abiogenesis, you know. It just, the Abiogenesis fairy tale. And they pushed that, man. Lee Cronin was caught on a Lex Friedman show saying that it's a scam. He said it's a sham. He was like, because every time they fail, they say, we're going to do something else. And you know, this will do it. So it's kind of like cigarette research, tobacco research. Even though they know it causes problems, they'll be like, look, we're still doing more research. It's like, yeah, but for 30 years, you're getting the same results. It's like,
well,
right?
In all fairness to them, they're getting a paycheck too.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, again, it shows how abiogenesis continues. They get the paycheck, and then they keep saying, "Oh, we're gonna find it this time. We're gonna find." It's like Leakey. I think it was Leakey or Johansson. Who found Lucy?
Just like the missing link, there's funding for that to go out in these. They fund research institutes to go find that missing link. So there's a lot of money involved.
Mm-hmm. Donald Johansson and Tom Gray, and they say discovered the famous 3.2 million year old. It's like, how do you even get that straight fairy tale date? Fairy tale date. There's no way. And then a 40% complete skeleton, right? Which we now know definitely is not 40%. They have parts of other stuff. They changed. They did like kind of they were doing a grinder and stuff, trying to fix like the hip bone and stuff. So they altered the bones. And then they're saying, look, we found the ancestor of humans. I mean, the lies are just
they found bones in the earth is what they found. That's all they found.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, there was no major scientific breakthrough. It's fraud on top of fraud. It's a history of fraud with evolution. It really is. From Piltdown Man to Ernest Haeckel's drawings, I mean, it's just fraud after fraud, and people still eat it up.
Yeah. I'm checking. Was Donald Johansson's, all right, that's his name, grant going to expire when he went to find Lucy? Because I heard something like that. Somebody had brought that up. While specific dates, Donald 73, the hominid knee joint provided the critical evidence. Oh my goodness. He found a knee joint, and that they say that was the evidence to raise enough money to continue the expedition. Holy smokes, man.
We're not talking jump change either. We're talking a lot of money. So of course they're gonna lie. Think about it. You're getting all this funding, a nice paycheck, travel around the world, recognition. You get to speak at universities and get paid for that too. Who's not going to take and say, "Yep, it's true"? Of course they're going to agree to it. You know what I mean? I understand their part, but the thing that scares me are the people who don't benefit at all and believe it, like the guys on that other channel of tacos. It's like, wait, you get no financial benefit from this whatsoever, and you believe this crap. That's the scary part. Those are the zombies. Those are the ones that you need to watch out for.
Yeah, you know? Totally. Trying to see if Donald Johansson was good, because there was something where they were saying he said he was going to go to Africa to find the missing link, and they're saying while the term was used colloquially to describe such fossils, Johansson stated that to him all fossils represent missing links. Wow, they're just so full of crap, man.
Hey, it's everything, you know. So just keep giving me the money, and I'll find it.
Yeah, and this is the craziest thing. He says all fossils represent missing links until they're actually discovered. Oh my goodness. I mean, how the heck could anybody even think this is anything but a lie? Holy,
they do.
The fact that he said that even before they are actually, this is ridiculous. So until they're discovered, they're not discovered. It's a missing. No, it's not. That's such a lie. That it's like you haven't found anything. You have.
To me, the missing link is no different than trying to find Superman. You know?
Exactly.
Put it in a comic book. That's where it belongs.
Searching for Superman. Exactly. Yep. They're searching for the cape. They're searching for the cape. That is, wow, man. Wow, that is really, yeah. I think about that. I'm surprised Scribe dropped off, but yeah. I had some. All right, so this is the albino family. These are the albino the children that are showing albino hair featured, blonde hair. I mean, it's just amazing when I look through this. The vitiligo. When I think about that, I mean, this is like very, very much proof of melanin being an overlay. The fact now that we know that straight blonde hair or straight hair period can turn curly through radiation, that adds another piece of the puzzle. The fact that these albinos here are showing the original template. Imagine if this is what original humans look like. What would be called black African humans, what would be called, in between European, whatever, humans, what would be called, I'm not sure of the ethnicity, but it's showing us this is she's a beautiful, beautiful platinum blonde afro on these twins. And what if this was what people look like when we were first created? This is a fascinating, and all life. I'm going to make like a Garden of Eden type of thing with everything looking like this. And then possibly if the dome breaks or something, and this was a theory I had, what if there was like some type of covering, and not to go into like if somebody would say, because they're ready to jump in, the earthers, would be quick to say, well, it's a dome. And it's like, no, I'm saying like, okay, let's just say if the clouds around Earth were thicker, much thicker, like on a cloudy day, the sun doesn't come through. It's actually like, it can be like maybe a little bit of a fluorescent light effect, or sometimes it can be the sun is just, you don't even see the sun. You just see the clouds. That's how thick they are in the middle of the day. If that was the normal atmosphere, albinos could survive on the surface because it's the direct sunlight that threatens them. So let's just say the atmosphere started to thin. Then people would naturally start to adapt, because as the sun's intensity got stronger, and I had postulated something on the last stream. I said, let's just say these people adapt to the planet. The atmosphere is lighter. They start to turn different shades according to the different latitudes they're at, and their features start to change. Lips, nose, the Chinese thing is still, we're still, looking for to say, okay, in snow areas, one person had a theory. That's why maybe the eyes could have been where they're, I don't know what the scientific term would be for the small slit type of eye. I forgot what it is, because there's a lot of Asian people, Oriental people like that only have one eyelid. So that's a feature that you don't see in the other phenotypes. In all other phenotypes, you'll see we have an upper eyelid. Like there's a difference in our upper eyelid than certain Asian feature upper eyelids, and that gives a different look as well. So it really pointed me toward that the original template, like you were saying, it could actually be a Chinese albino, something like that. And so instead of, because remember, they're always trying to direct us. So instead of thinking that it would come from somewhere in Western Asia, which by Europe would be, maybe it comes on the other side in China. And then after a while on the planet, the eye starts to adapt to where it can open more. But then we also see like, okay, how do we solve that? When we look at Indonesia, we see the tribe, the Bhutan tribe. You can see the Asian influence, but they have olive skin now, and the eyes are a little more opened. They're you can see a relation to the Asian Oriental eye, but you also see it starting to get more of an opening. And that tribe is known for having sparkling blue eyes. I had showed the picture on a stream or two ago for it, the Bhutan tribe. I'll see if I can upload some of those pictures.
We see them in tropical environments too, the Asian people, the Philippines and Vietnam. We go southern and we still see the same. You know what I'm saying? So is it really related to the atmosphere, or is it something else?
It could be something else. You're right. You're absolutely right. It could clearly be something else.
Yeah.
Oh, I see you now. I'm sorry, Azra. My apology. I was uploading the pictures.
The power went off. So after the power went off, like I couldn't access the net. The power came back now. That's why the connection got severed.
Yeah, you hopped off. Yeah, the mine was on Scribe. I guess Scribe is. I know he was doing something with his girlfriend probably. But this is the Indonesian tribe. These two people have heterochromia, one blue eye, well, two different colored eyes. That's what it stands for. But when you look at some of the other kids in the tribe, this is like a sparkling blue eye. You see the Asian features, but this is what it might be when the Asian features adapt to the warmer climates. The skin gets the melanin, the eye starts to open more, the original eye reveals itself of the blue eye. And then when we look, do we have it anywhere else? In Africa, the Ari tribe. Not everybody has blue eyes, but many of the members have blue eyes in the Ari tribe. And even like these two in the Ari tribe, the woman on the left has amber colored eyes. The man has dark brown eyes, but amber color. So you're seeing people with different colored eyes in the Ari tribe, suggesting that that template, our original template, is surfacing. It's surfacing in from the genome. Azarun, did you have anything or?
Yeah, MD, you had said that we might have been grown in a water container, right? There is a tale like that in Hindu mythology, that there's the progenitor of the human race. What he does is he takes a pot filled with water, puts all the seeds of humankind in the pot filled with water, and waits for it to sprout, like the way the seeds of the plant sprout. That way human beings, actually, there is a lot of similarity to what you said, MD, like regarding the water container. His name is Bija Prajapati. He actually, like, according to myths, there's this place called Kumbakonam in India. So there, actually, like, after the mankind gets wiped out, the rest of mankind again will be progenited in a pot, put with the seeds of mankind will be filled with water, and it will be closed until they sprout again, like the way the plants sprout from seeds. So there is some similarity, MD, to what you said, actually.
Wow, thank you, man. What was his name? Bija Prajapati, you said?
Bija Prajapati.
Prajapati. I'm seeing if I can. Okay, I think it popped it up. Yeah, the tank thing, and this is the thing where when we're on the search for truth, we can take different routes and we'll both meet up at the same place. So how you knew there was an Indian documentation of the people being created in tanks, you were saying?
Yeah.
And then I'm saying, when I look for the truth and I say, it really does make me wonder, like, what is it that's the aquatic link. And then once we're brought out of that tank, now we have to stay in an indoor environment, because if we go outside, we definitely can't go out in the daytime because albinos will be affected. And
Correct.
then over time, if that person is outside, you're looking at millennia. We don't know how long they will start to adapt to the planet. Because, like, if you look at very straight hair, blonde Germans with straight noses, they look very similar to the straight hair, very dark skin, almost black skinned, black straight hair, straight nose Indians from like Sri Lanka and I think southern India. I don't know, like, have you ever seen those Indians that have very straight noses and straight hair and they're very dark?
Yeah. They're known as Dravidians, but Dravidians and Aryans, actually, like, they say they're mixed. But if you come to South India and go to North India and the rural areas, there'll be a lot of dark-skinned people with straight hair and sharp noses.
Wow. And that's another feature I'm thinking when I think about this. It's like, when I type it in, the crazy thing is they don't bring up dark-skinned Indians. They bring up these medium complexion Indians.
Yeah, wheatish complexion. Indians with wheatish complexion, but most of the Indians are dark-skinned.
All right, I think maybe if I type in black-skinned Indians, and they still, wow, they're high. I heard they hide these people, like they won't let them act. They won't, all of the Bollywood thing is very, very prejudiced, they were saying.
Yeah. They like fair-skinned people more, actually. India is obsessed with fair skin, just like China. In China also, like, if the person is dark-skinned, he's he'll be equated to a slave, because a slave works all day long in the sun and he gets tanned, right? This model called Kevin Creeder, who was known as the ugly Asian model, he is actually a Korean adopted by American parents. So when he went to Malaysia to get a modeling prospects because he wasn't doing well in the US, he's quite handsome despite having neothenic features. He got himself tanned and they said, are you a slave? Only slaves get tanned in the sun because they work all day long hard in the sun. So like it's the same thing with India actually. Like
That
they
is so
don't like
true.
dark skinned people.
Yeah, it's like
That
they
shows it's not just an American problem, too. You know,
oh yeah,
it's a point.
yeah, clearly. This lady, this was one I could find, and
Yeah,
she
yeah.
actually has lighter hair. Yeah, wow. And she looks almost like it's like a dark brown, like almost, I don't know if I could say a bluish hue. There's something that's very spiritual about this woman. It's like a sacred, I mean, original. Like the reason genetics probably would come up as the longest genetics for darker people is they've been on the surface. I mean, this is one of our ancestors, man. It's just amazing, man. When I look at the human form, you look at these people that are tribal, and they're some of the most just beautiful people on the planet, man. It really, there's beauty in so much. It's just when I look at this stuff, I'm just like, wow. Look at I mean, the variety on planet Earth is just amazing. I mean, this looking at this, it's taking me to areas where it's like I never would have. I'm like, wow, the truth is always stranger than fiction. The truth is yeah, this is I saw something, like I guess in India they would call the dark Dravidians untouchables.
Yeah, many of them are untouchables. They do all kinds of very low jobs, like they clean the toilets. If the corpses are there, they carry the corpses. The upper caste people don't carry the corpses. Their job is to dispose corpses in Benares. So like according to the Vedic Puranas, it's not by coincidence that you're born into a low class community and ill treated, because you would have misused your authority in a previous birth. As a punishment, you're born into some low class community and you're ill treated in this birth. So there is some connection between that and the previous birth thing actually. Otherwise, like they say that actually, because generally the upper caste people, they get all the good things in life. The lower caste people have to do all disgusting jobs, and all these disgusting jobs, even if the upper caste people get it, like the way they outsource jobs from the USA to India, right? The upper caste people outsource all these jobs to the lower caste people, and they're known as karma safedis.
Wow, it's crazy because when you look at it, they use. I think that's a really good way to keep people mentally enslaved. To say, oh, you did something, So it's like saying you didn't even do something; somebody else did it. So if we look at this theory, what it is that these people are actually the ones that either escaped from the laboratory and came to the surface, or were put on the surface, one or the other, or maybe that a catastrophe allowed them to, just be like stranded on the surface in a way, and they adapt and they start to turn very dark. And then the architects of humanity send a new set out, the brainwashed. They totally don't know who they are, and they're told that they're superior and that they have a right to take over and kill the rest of the people, that anything darker is not good. That explains the scenario we see right now. So we see that clearly. It's like trying to tell us that darker is not good. They try to tell us that darker is dirty, which is not true. And when you look at these tribal people, they're so loving. They're so willing. It's sort of like relatives. You go and they're like, where have you been? We've been waiting here so long for you. And what I proposed I had written it down in kind of like a thing that would show people like, okay, what if this happened? So let me see if I have I think I had it here. So I was saying, like, what if, like, when the people were on the surface of the planet, I go, Imagine if we were created in a laboratory deep within the earth or under a suboceanic dome that would provide protection from solar radiation. And somehow, possibly through either being released or encountering some type of catastrophe that allowed us to escape, we become stranded on the planet's surface. We survive and learn how to navigate this minefield called nature, only to adapt over millennia into the wide variety of different colors we see today. After eons of time, the architects of humanity send their new models out onto the surface to strip mine the planet for minerals to build their future inventions. The people with less melanin would never know that those who they encountered in these tribal areas once looked just like them. But they were somehow stranded on the surface and have adapted to the environment in different ways. But they used to look just like them. If they knew, because we all have blue eyes under our brown eyes, it's a proven fact. I explained it early in this show. And if they knew this, then attacking us would be out of the question. We would be accepted as their long lost brothers and sisters. But the architects have programmed them with a superiority complex, making them think they are closer to being human or even closer to God than those who are different. This could very well explain the scenario we see today. And that, what I had written, I don't know if I'm going to put that in the book, but I have it in one of the files. It's when we look at it, this is something that we see. We see that it's like a demonization of anything that is dark, anything that has curly hair to a point. If it's dark, the dark skin is what they're afraid of the most. I don't know why. Because you can have a person with curly afro-like hair, and they could be very, very light-skinned, but if they're passing, they're not going to, have as hard of a time as somebody who's very dark-skinned. But when we see the prejudice kick in, they also treat albinos different. Like they'll look at albinos as something like, it kind of shows like, wait a minute. So it's like not just white. It's sort of like saying that you have to be a certain type of white. It's like, where is the line of what they would call whiteness? Is it like where Moscow or something? They try to say the Caucasus Mountains, but the Caucasus Mountains don't go north to south. The Caucasus Mountains go on an east to west slope, and it's more from an east to a southern west slope, and it's not a very big mountain range. So when we look at all of this stuff, we start to see that these stories have been orchestrated to keep us apart, because it's like they've sent these people out to come and hunt down the last remaining people that adapted to the planet. There's no more Tasmanians because Christians killed them off in Tasmania, white Christians to be exact. Not to say that all white Christians are bad, but we know what they did in Tasmania. There's no more of those people left. That's a horrible crime towards humanity. I mean, when I look at the fact that these governments just overlooked that, and like I said earlier, they did not consider Aboriginals even people until 1968. They were listed as flora and fauna. Anybody can look that up. So they were hunted like animals. And these people are highly advanced people. They understand the surface of the earth better than any Westerner. This is why possibly you had a person from the Aboriginal tribe make a schematic that was eventually turned into the modern day helicopter. And I said to myself, how would somebody that comes from what they would call such a primitive tribe have the knowledge to look at a boomerang and then realize that he could turn that type of mechanics into a helicopter, a flying vehicle, write the blueprint for it? It seems that that was in his genetics, maybe from a previous ancestor that lived in a civilization with flying vehicles, which we see in India. They have documented that immensely. So the fact that India has documented that so much, what do we see coming out of India? The genetics, they have a lot of inventions. There's a lot of science. I think one of the first eye surgery guys. I'm not, if I'm incorrect, I'm not sure. I think it was invented by an Indian guy, the laser eye surgery or something like that, for some type of medical procedure. This is, many years ago. There are a lot of other things. When you look at the genius in somebody from a tribal stance, you say, well, wait a second, this person didn't have formal schooling. And now they're ahead of anybody that had formal schooling. You look at the inventors from Africa. I mean, these people are inventing things from basically being in a situation that how it boggles the mind. It's like, how could you have time to think? I mean, you're struggling for food, shelter, and clothing over here. But some of them that do have time to think, they come up with these amazing inventions. I had a whole list of them. I don't know where I put it, but I had like a list of some of them. I'm pretty sure India has a few of them too. But yeah, Saturday night. Yeah, man. Do you have anything, Ezra?
Nothing, MD.
Okay.
But the Caucasus is there, right? They say that the Aryans came from the Caucasus, and even the Caucasus, like Caucasians, came from the Caucasus. But the way the people in the Caucasus are built, it's totally different. Actually, like you take Georgia, Chechnya, and other areas lying close to the Caucasus.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they came up with that theory, MD. It's weird.
It's very similar to the evolution. So the evolution lie, they are professional liars. These people are like championship Olympic gold medal liars. They've won the gold medal for lying, the platinum medal. I mean, their lies are just on a level that if you don't think about it psychologically, it's hard to see them. I looked up Aryan myth debunked because there's a very good video on YouTube where they debunked that many years ago. And the Aryan race is a 19th century pseudoscientific concept, not a biological reality. The fact that I'm so glad that this is actually, at least they accept this, debunked by modern genetics and archaeology. So both have debunked it. And it says, they try to say that these people, some people try to say they're superior. Aryan originally referred to only a branch of certain languages. They say Indo-Iranian. No biological basis, anthropological, historical, and archaeological evidence proves there was no distinct superior Aryan race, as human populations are genetically intertwined. So I noticed that they give hints because we're all genetically intertwined, but then they'll try to say, well, some people are closer to an ape than others. So they do flim flam on back and forth. So they have certain authors that wrongly connected language to race. And of course, these were authors from Europe, Stuart Chamberlain, author Gabanow, and that it created the myth that underpinned Nazi racial ideology. So we see how it was created. The indigenous Aryanism, this theory emerged from the challenge, the idea of external invasion. Of course, because they don't want to give the Indians the credit for building superior civilizations, actually real civilizations, possibly if they treated each other with civility. So the Aryan specific terms, and they always try to say Indo-European. No, it's Indian. It's India. It's not Indo-European. It's Indian. And give the people their credit, man. It just, the whole area. I'm so glad that they actually have this up here. And they're saying, however, are not a race. And we saw what that did. We saw the madness that brought in with Hitler and them. Yeah, Mr.
Can I mention something about Ramanujan? Because he was one of the brilliant mathematical minds of our century, the last century, the 20th century. He gives credit to the spirit realm for his understanding of mathematics. If you read about his autobiography, he heavily said that I didn't solve anything. I got it from the spiritual realm or spirit guides or so forth. And that's not to say that any race is, actually, it's the opposite. It's to say that we're all equal, and that some of these advanced, like how did this person from Africa discover how to build a helicopter? Maybe all the great inventions came from some metaphysical space. That they're the real geniuses that teach mankind, not us.
Yeah,
Correct.
it makes sense. That guy was from Australia, but yeah, it definitely makes sense.
No, Ramanujan, he was Indian, I believe.
No, I mean the helicopter.
Oh, a helicopter. Yeah, I mean it's really coming from another realm.
Yeah, Ramanujan was an amazing. He was, I think, even more in mathematics than Shakuntala, the woman who has the most mechanical mathematical thing. Yeah, I was looking.
Like, why would somebody come up with the idea of a helicopter who had, you know what I'm saying? It just, I'm trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and it's like maybe all these inventions came, they came from another realm, not human.
Yeah. Well, they said he was basing it off of the boomerang mechanics. So in Australia, but the boomerang, they say that the boomerang was given to them from the gods.
Right.
So again, the initial thing of what he looked at the aerodynamics of how the boomerang worked, he figured it out, and like you said, it could have been some type of divine insight or something like that. And the same thing with Ramanujan. I don't know if Azraroon, do you know anything about Ramanujan? I didn't know if you know.
Yeah, my friend follows him a lot. He would work on maths problems continuously for 8-9 hours for 22 hours straight, and his wife had to feed him. She had to make rice balls and feed him. Actually, like, he was so obsessed with his work that he wouldn't even eat. His wife was there to feed him, and I forgot the name of the goddess that would come in his dreams and give him all these formulas, like tau function, then Mach theta. He created a lot of mathematical concepts, for which people are now finding the pattern, to which there are solutions to, you can apply them practically in real life. So he was always getting this message intuitively from a goddess. I'll find out the name of the goddess. She only gave him permission to go to England and study mathematics with that professor, actually.
It's the Hindu goddess Namagiri Thayer of something, I can't pronounce it. Namagiri.
Yeah. She would come to him in his dreams and give him all the formulas that he wanted, and he would work like really crazy and solve all of them. He was a genius, actually.
Yeah, wow. Ramanujan claimed the goddess wrote mathematical formulas on his tongue while he slept.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And I did hear that he would work on problems. They said that, I think he used to be a rickshaw boy or something like that when he was younger, and there was some British higher up guy in education, and he would turn around and answer a mathematical question before the guy said it. And that,
come on, is that genius or is that something else? That's supernatural.
That's some type of psych. That's going into the non-physical realm. When somebody can turn around or somebody can answer a question, you say, "Wait, I didn't even answer. That was the question I was going to ask. How did you know?"
Right. There's no logical reason to know a question before it's asked. There's nothing. You can't formulate that in any way, shape, or form.
And you see the pure insanity for somebody to say it's evolution. I mean, it's just that person has something mental going on to say, and people will literally say that. People will literally say that. It just
MT. One more thing. Even though Hitler claimed that the Aryans were Germans and they were the superior most race on the planet, you look at so many Nazi officers, they didn't have that German, typical Aryan appearance. In fact, many jokers, these people who crack jokes, right? The comedians, they used to make fun of the Nazi higher-ups appearances. All of them were thrown into concentration camps and killed. The strange thing is, like Hitler, Hermann Göring, then this Heinrich Himmler, then this Ernst Ron, Rudolf Hess, none of them had those Aryan features that they always used to talk about. That's why I remember you had done one on Black Pill stream. You had done one thing like, was Hitler obsessed with Chad? The Chad that he talked about.
A lot of them weren't straight, Varun. A lot of them were homosexual. A lot of them, that's been documented. A lot of the head Nazi leaders were homosexual.
Yeah, they were homosexual and they didn't have Aryan appearances. Only Reinhard Heydrich, he was known as the Blonde Beast. He was handsome, but he was very cruel and he was killed in the Czech Republic. He was ambushed and killed. He had an Aryan appearance. And in Europe, the strange thing is the Nazis would kidnap any child that looked like an Aryan and like use him for experimentation and to prop him up as the citizen of Germany. But they were obsessed with that typical the Aryan features: tall, blonde hair, blue-eyed, fair-skinned, a chiseled, muscular, athletic physique. They are obsessed about that, but many of them lack that actually. That was the ironic thing about them.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at, I think it was Heimler, he had glasses, so
Yeah.
it's like they were saying that people like that, they were putting them into extermination camps. So it's like Hitler himself was not a tall man. He wore lifts in his boots, anybody could see. So he was compensating for what he thought. And you're right, they would steal the blonde kids from Poland and Czech Republic and say, oh, these are our Aryan race. But the funny thing was that when they raced these super so-called Ubermen against a black man, Jesse Owens, he beat every single one of them.
Yeah,
and it just, I mean, the beauty of reality, it's so beautiful when I look at stuff like that and I say, look at this guy. And then they humiliated him years after by having him race dogs. I mean, when you look at the horror of how like cruel.
But can I ask a question, MD?
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible, if the theory of evolution was never formed or created, that something like the Nazi Party could ever come into existence? That they ever could have sold the superiority of their race if there was no evolution?
No, no, I definitely don't. He wrote praising Hitler. Darwin. Hitler wrote, praising the theory. He was loving the theory. I mean,
yeah. So it shows you how dangerous a theory can be. What it can lead to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Correct. The other thing also is the Germans, the reason why Hitler brought up this Aryan superiority myth is, I had that book, Hitler and His God. In that, actually, the Germans were looked upon as the most inferior people in Europe for a very long time. That enraged them to such an extent that they wanted to cover up their shame and their humiliation with this Aryan theory propaganda. And Hitler was the face of that thing, actually. Like, even during Martin Luther's time, who started the Protestant Reformation movement, he also said that Adam and Eve might have been born in Germany, because all of us, we have just been humiliated continuously by the Holy Roman Empire and other empires. We can't stand it anymore. So I think it is safe to assume that Adam and Eve were born in Germany and they spoke German. So even during Martin Luther King's time, the Germans were looked down upon as an inferior race. To hide all that and to overcome that humiliation, they started this Nazi propaganda of the Aryan race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the crazy thing is that it worked to brainwash people. It showed you, just how like afraid and willing to follow. It was ridiculous that people would not stand up and fight against that. And it really made me wonder. It was so bad, the brainwashing, that JP Hives had told me once on the stream about a book called Black Nazis by Veronica Werner. And she wrote and showed, I mean, in Argentina, they had Latino people, Latinas with light tans, wearing the armband with the swastika.
The swastika is an auspicious symbol. It means God exists in all the directions. These Nazis stole it from us and they perverted it, and they put it like they inverted the swastika and they made a mess. They disgraced our religion. Actually, many ideas they stole from us and they perverted it. Yeah. Because like the swastika is an auspicious symbol, right? I don't know what they meant by the whole thing, but generally, like Anglo-Saxon Protestant people are the most superior people on the face of this planet. That's what they were trying to propagate. Yeah, and then they use the inverted swastika actually.
Yeah, and yeah, that was the thing. And the funny thing was that when you look at it, you see that it's just not true. Like you said, these guys, a lot of them didn't fit the what they would say is the Korean model. It just they would they would have been sent to the camps.
Correct.
And it just yeah, history is something. When I look at the thing was, they don't know that these other people are them, that they are. It's like we're all linked. We all have this commonality of coming from an original template, which shockingly enough from this research shows us that people are adapting to the surface. It dawned on me to say, what if the architects of humanity was so cruel that people escaped to the surface? So that could have been another scenario, and show how cruel they are by making more humans to come out onto the surface and do what they're doing today. It's basically hunting people down. It's like people are trying to fight just to survive. I mean, the evil is just on a level. It's so sad when I look at the Dalits in India and what they go through, and it's basically because they're dark. It's because they're so dark skinned, and it's horrible. And this is what's to show me that the reincarnation thing might just be a lie, because and I'm not saying it's a total lie, maybe some people can be reincarnated, but when those people in India are oppressing these people, making them clean toilets, making them carry bodies off of trains, that people get hit by the train, and all of the harder work. And they're saying, oh, well, it's because you did something bad in a previous life. Well, that same person is doing something horrible in this life. If they really believe that to be true, they would not do things horrible. So the moment they say that, these Dalits should rise up and just cut off their head. So just get rid of, the Indians in India that oppress them are so disgusting. They make the Europeans that oppress the world look not that bad.
Yeah, it's true.
It's horrible when I look at these people that are there in India. And I'm not saying, of course, nothing against you or anybody, with you, Ezra. I know you're a good person. But when you see these people that treat these people, I heard they can't even go to the same temple and worship.
No, they can't.
Right?
And what happens is that the other thing is, like, they eat on banana leaves in India in the temples. So the upper caste people, they believe that their spit is very superior to everyone else. So after they finish eating the food, the parts of their saliva will be on the banana leaf. The Dalits are supposed to roll on that with their bodies to purify themselves if they want to enter the temple.
This is horrible.
It shows you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
it just shows you how important, like, us having the streams and these discussions to open the mind and to think a different way. How important that is when you're zombified and you believe in the nonsense. Look at the result. You get people for centuries that have been oppressed and mistreated because of just a way of thinking, and a belief system that's flawed.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And
they actually rose up. They formed the Naxalite movement. Naxalites are communists. So the communists are filled with people from the lower caste area only, like the SCSTs, tribals, the lower caste people. But they got defeated by the government because it was not well organized. Their ideas wouldn't work in the long run because communism doesn't work anywhere. But there were many open revolts. But then the upper caste people formed their own groups. Like in Bihar, the Naxalites, they consisted of all these lower caste people and these Dalits. The upper caste people got scared that they were going to take over all their lands, and they started this thing called Ranveer Sena. They would go to the Dalits if they caught them stealing land from the upper caste people or joining these movements to force the upper caste people to give their lands. They would burn the whole families down.
Wow. Talk about evil. When you look at that, and that person is telling you that, you're there because you were bad in a previous life, and they're being demonic, like burning people down, all of this stuff, that tells you that they don't believe in that. Because if they did, they would be careful on how they treat people, because they would be reborn into that bad position. So the fact that they're doing these bad things, anybody could see that they really don't believe that to be true. These Dalits are not in a position because they did something bad in a previous life. That just seems to be more lies, because if they believe that, they would be kind to them and say, look, I'm not going to be mean to you because I want to make sure I go to a better place, right? Or come back as a better being. But the fact that they're doing these horrible things, it shows that the reincarnation lie is just to get them to follow. Because if somebody really knew that, look, you weren't reincarnated here because you were bad, maybe you were put here to fight evil. And because anytime we don't fight injustice, you die. A coward dies 1,000 times. A man dies once. And when you look at that I know for myself, when I don't do something right, when I look at something, this is why we feel a certain way when we see people being hurt and oppressed that have done nothing wrong, that just they want to live, they want to have lands. And the British, I think, were very responsible for taking the lands from the Dalits and giving it to other Indians and creating that system. It's horrible.
Indentured servitude by the zamindaris. It was abolished somewhere in the 1960s, MD. Until then, like, let's say you were a small landowner and you had to repay debts to this big landlord. You and your whole family would have to pay debts for like forever. Then the government came and abolished it. And what the Dalits now are doing is that they realize that they're not getting any respect in the Hindu religion. Many of them are converting off to Christianity. But the strange thing is, when they convert off to Christianity, they get all the respect. Like the Hindus over here, the upper caste people don't dare to fight them when they're Christians. So the Christian conversion in the north and in the south, it's becoming more and more rampant, actually.
Well, when you look at that, that's an ingenious psychological way for the British to get people to voluntarily subscribe to Christianity, right? Look at the psychological overview. And this is has to be planned over hundreds of years to say, look, we will make these people make possibly what would be the original Hindus, because they've been on the planet's surface the longest, because they're dark. The melanin gives us, that is actually a way to date people. To say whoever's the darkest, obviously, has been experienced solar radiation the longest. That makes sense. So these people seem to be the original Hindus that are here. And now this new monster that was created, that comes out of the architects of humanity, wherever the laboratories are sent over. And the same thing they did to the Indians with making them pay for their land and all of that, that's the same thing they did to the Irish. The English tried to do it to the Scottish and the Irish. So we see that the template, and it's not to say, of course, it's not all English. They were very good Englishmen, but their ruling class, we see what their ruling class is doing to their own people by letting these Pakistani grape gangs just ravage through England. So it's like they're trying to say now they're getting what they did to India. It's the karma coming back to them. It's saying, when they were doing this to India and just rape, pillage, and plundering everything to where they could get, their country to be so-called advanced. Now look at them. Now, and that's, to me, that's karma. And the karma doesn't have a menu. You get what you deserve. And it's not to say that these girls that they're accosting, they deserve it, but that invasion of these inbred monsters. And yes, I said inbred monsters, because anybody can look up the Pakistani problem of cousin effing, and 3 out of 5 children come out disabled, blind, and all of that, from cousins from brother and sister having, it's horrible. But people don't want to call that out. People want to talk about what's happening in Gaza, and they don't want to talk about what's happening in Sudan. Pakistan is probably one of the most nutcase terrorist countries on the planet of the earth. I have a good friend from Pakistan, and if he can't see that, I don't know what to say, because you can see the videos. They're breeding their children to just hate India.
Yeah.
And when I look at that and I say, well, these people invaded India, they need to take them and put them right back into the desert of Saudi Arabia. Same thing with the Afghanis. All of that was India. That was Western India, all the way up to Iran, right? That was it.
Zoroastrians. One sage called Vashishta, he went to Iran and taught them how to worship the fire, and that became Zoroastrianism. So, like, there's a lot of similarity between old Farsi and Sanskrit. So they were fire worshippers, and worshipping fire is considered sacred in Hinduism too.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing, man. And it's like, I tell you, man, it's so great. Like Mr. X was saying, it's so great that we have these streams to learn and to talk about these things, because there's not many places where people talk about stuff like this. Other streams, I noticed they just more argue, and even people in the chat that come in earlier that was saying, like, Brian Nichols tried to bring in the Aryan thing. Hopefully he can be educated from this stream to realize, like, hey,
what did he say? What the guy Brian Nichols say exactly?
Oh, yeah. Well, he was from Brave, Be Brave and Think. He said, let me see, because Brian Nichols was funny. He had me laughing the other day when he was like saluting the caste system. I was like, this guy is a funny dude. But he says here, Aryans were in India 3,000 years ago. It's like, Kimmy, it's like Aryans, they did not go to India. It's like he's acting like Aryans were an outside force and they were Indian No, they weren't.
They just accept that it's bullshit. You know what I mean? At this point, there's no superior races. There's none of this shit. It's all shit. It's just all crap. It's nonsense. Everybody's human. We all sleep, eat, and crap. You know what I mean? We're all human.
Maybe he'll learn from this stream that we all have blue eyes. And that's a fact, a scientific fact. They can just type it into YouTube. Dr. Homer, Greg Homer, talking. You have other people that have already, talked about it. But this is the most scientific explanation that I've come up with to say, okay, let me compile evidence to show how, the albino form, the blonde hair showing up in dark-skinned people.
And that Aryan race got the German people, got millions killed. That's that's what they got for adopting that philosophy. Yep. Millions of their own citizens killed.
Yep, exactly. If he really believed that, he would protect his people. He wouldn't send them off to die.
Exactly.
And then steal them from other countries and say, because of the way, it was crazy. And you're right, a lot of them straight closet, the whole gang. It was just straight Nazi closet. And
MD, who is Brian Nicholson?
He's a guy that used to be from Brave and Think streams. It's kind of, I'm not saying that Brave is a white racist, but they have a lot of white racists. That his channel got deleted because of that. You can only tell somebody so much to be like, look, man, they were trying to bring up like the whole thing with black crime in America. To me, it's like people that are so mentally accosted by just the race thing that they can't get it out of their head. And like when I look at blacks and whites in America that are racist, I know, like, what I see is they secretly love one another. It's like they want to be in bed. They've been in bed since slavery. And so they hate each other, but they still, when I look at it, it's like, why don't you guys just go together, And it's so ridiculous when I see.
Are they going to tell me every white person they've ever met they got along with? Are they going to tell me that that's been their life experience? Every white person they ever met was a good person. Yeah. No, and I'll ask the same thing of any race.
Exactly.
It's like, come on, wake up and smell the coffee. Live in reality.
Yeah.
Live in reality. I met plenty of people who look you could think they were my brother, who I want nothing to do with. They look very similar to me. You'd think we were brothers, and I want nothing to do with people like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about the character, for crying out loud. It's about the individual. Wake up to reality, to live in the real world.
Exactly. And there's a story that exemplifies that by Johnny Lee Clary. He used to be the Grand Wizard of America. Mm-hmm. And he was the bodyguard for David Duke. Anybody can look up the story of Johnny Lee Clary. He went from Oklahoma Klansman. He went from David Duke's bodyguard to Oklahoma, the Klan leader of Oklahoma. Then he explained how you go to the Grand Wizard of the nation. I think he became that. When he was Duke's bodyguard, Duke was the Grand Wizard. So stuff happened. The feds got involved, and he didn't want to go away. So he talked, and he said, they tried to put a hit out on him. And he said what the Klan hates more than people that aren't like them, black or Jewish or other type of ethnicities. He goes, what they hate the most is people like them, white people like them that don't agree with them. So that's their first enemy, he said. And he said all the others, they definitely, that's just mandatory hate. He said, but their real argument, and I was shocked. If anybody watched the Johnny Lee Clarence, he's a gospel preacher now in a black church, a former wizard of the Klan. And then who was it? Daryl Davis. He's a black man that has been to Klan cross burnings. And from befriending and talking with Klan members, wizards of the Klan, he had guys give up their robe and resign. And he said that the guy was going to throw it out, and he goes, can I have that? And he started collecting Klan robes of Klansmen that he talked to that left the Klan because some of the logic that he presented to them on why their racist beliefs were just insane. And they eventually adhered to the logic and said, you know what? They're leaving the Klan. And it's just like, that's a victory. That's the way that's art of war. You don't break anything. You don't do nothing. You just, you enlighten the person. You say, look, man, this doesn't make sense. Right. And that's just what it is. And now we can have a better world if they're open to it, because most of them will not be open to that.
But here's the thing, MD. Somebody who would harm somebody physically and even delete them based on nothing more than race. Here's a news flash. A killer is a killer.
Yep.
Let me tell you, if some guy would do, like, let's say I was around somebody who said, oh, I only attack these people because of their race. I call bullshit. I know this person, I'd say the wrong thing to this person, he'll turn on me in a heartbeat.
Exactly.
Because a killer is a killer, you know?
Exactly.
And that's the thing they have to wake up and they're going to realize it the hard way if they play around with this stuff. Evil is evil.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. That's what I tell people about Howard Zinn wrote. He said he goes, we'll come to a conclusion that our great grandfathers made a deal with the devil. The people that killed off, just horribly the Native Americans here and enslaved, they think that same government is going to be good to them. No, right? Evil is evil. It's like, look, so you think these guys are good? And now they're starting to see that, wow. Like Howard Zinn said, he goes, it's as if our great grandfathers made a deal with the devil, and we're starting to see it. And many people told us, the natives said it, the black people of America said it. People, America is built up of so many different people, but we're under the slave whip of some type of hierarchy that might be run by the so-called architects of humanity with a lot of people have research they were talking about that a lot of the people here that populated America were cloned from the Cabbage Patch thing. There's a few researchers that do that. And I'm like, it has something that I might want to look into. I think we had one of the guys on the show, forgot his name, Guy Peterson, really cool, nice, really nice guy. But yeah, this theory is deep, man. This is something that I said, okay, I'm going to have to do a couple of shows and try to kind of talk people about it and, think like, okay, how am I going to kind of get this to where people can understand what I'm saying, Christopher says, Brother Ali says, proximity oftentimes hurts and blicks you off. Skin folk ain't always kinfolk. You absolutely right, bro. You are absolutely right, brother. And Timbo says, I think most white people in America have gone through the racial litmus test from other whites. That's a great way of putting it. The litmus test, the racial litmus test. I like that, man. Yeah, it's true. And it's like people are waking up. These streams are great. We're getting great conversations. It's a little late over here. Just hit 109. I got to get up at 6 a.m. every day. I search for different work. It's
Hey, look. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it'll get better, man. Yeah. What'd you say, Mr. X? I didn't know.
Oh, give me a sec.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll get better, man. I just yeah, it's a tough one. I think White Heat Truth. Wow, good to see. He says race relations got bad when the Anglos and Marinos started hurting humanity a few centuries ago. I got to look into that. I don't know I guess yeah, it's definitely some stuff going on around the world, man. I'm hoping that people will start to research. I'm going to be making the documentary. I don't know if I'm going to do a Kickstarter. I might just make it in my spare time while I'm editing the book to push out. The book will be a rereadable book, so it'll only be maybe 60 pages, but it will have charts and pictures. But I got a shocker if I can finish the video for tomorrow on Sunday. The thumbnail, it's going to be a really good show. But as for now, Azroon, did you have anything?
No, nothing.
Okay. And I think Mr. X is on the phone. Everybody in the chat, man, thank you so much. Thank you for the support, Brother Ali. Everybody, take care and have a great night.
Goodbye, MD. Goodbye, Mr. X.
Goodbye.